For Ferris Cartoony, 183, and sets a blistering new track record. Dropping temperatures and foliage changing from green to amber signify the end of the racing season and bring forth the season finale for GRIDLIFE Track Battle and GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. Last year, the National Park of Speed played host to the finals, but this season we head to the plains of Kansas to the House of Speed, Heartland Motorsports Park, to decide the season championships in each of our 8 competition classes. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Creamer. Welcome back, Greg, as we head to our season finale. Second year in a row you've been with us for the season finals, this time at Heartland Motorsports Park in Topeka, Kansas.
Well, thanks very much, Kyle. Absolutely great to be a part of it for the second year at the season finale. And I think this is going to be very interesting. This track couldn't be more different than what Road America was like for a season finale. For many, you know, Road America has a lot of its power. Here, this is a lot of challenging, high-speed, flowing turns, and then a very twisty technical section for the last sequence of corners. This might be a little bit more of a driver's track in terms of the technical aspects of it, but it's going to be a great challenge for everybody, and just great to be a part of it. This is a fabulous series, and both Time Attack and, of course, GLTC, it's going to be decided this weekend.
It's going to be decided this weekend. On track right now is Group D for GridLife Track Battle. You didn't miss Group A. We're going to run this session in reverse. So DCBA, we're going to catch all of that here, followed by GridLife Touring Cup qualifying at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. We'll take a little bit of a break mid-afternoon and be back with Race 1 and some more track battle later today. The weather is cool outside. It's a great condition for running track records. We've already seen one in Sunday Cup this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a nice lap by Cody Smith. Turned in a 1:59. Check that. It was Lucas Urban turned in a 1:59.671 in his ZX2 that broke the track record by a tenth over Matt Williams' time that was set previously. So great conditions here. Now, we did have a little bit of rain after that session this morning when the novice HPDE went out. I know that personally. It was slippery. And now we had a GLTC group go out as well. So we'll see what the grip's like here. But the conditions, in terms of temperature, this is max power time. And in terms of people that are hanging around watching, the Minnesotan in me says it's brisk out. The now Floridian in me says it's cold.
This morning it was almost unbearably cold.
Yeah.
Here's a look at our track map, though, Greg. 2.5 miles. While we're in Kansas here, you'd think this place is flat, and in places it is. But the first sector, turn 1 through turn 7, there's quite a bit of elevation and some camber to the racetrack.
There is. When you come into that turn 1-2 complex, it rises as you make that little bend to the left. Then you go by Alpha Station, which is what that is. Then it falls down into 2. You get to 3. It is a banked climbing corner that you just ramp through. Use it to throw you up into turn 4. Probably shouldn't put it quite that way. Throw you into turn 4, which is a very quick flick to the right. And then heavy braking into 5. Get that big rotation there. Possible overtaking area when you're talking about racing there. Turn 6, one of the 2 most important corners on the track, because turn 7 is essentially flat unless you're in something monstrously powerful. So 6 is your launch onto a long straight run. That chicane, very quick into it, a little tighter on the exit. So you've got to be prepared for that little change up. And then that very twisty bit, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 14 again. Really critical to get out of that well down the long front straight.
It is a fast place. I rode with Nicholas Kors yesterday in his turbo street modified Civic, and holy cow, that car is fast, A. B, this racetrack is fast and on track right now. Sunday Cup, one of my favorite classes to watch here, Greg. 25-to-1 power to weight with driver, and these cars, yes, they're slow, but I've never seen a slow car go as fast as a Sunday Cup car.
I would agree with you, and these are the most beneficial bang for the buck cars. They are fun to drive, especially on a track like this. Really enjoyable to drive and relatively inexpensive, and it's a great introductory category for somebody who wants to go, you know, I think I'm going to like this, but I don't want to spend a ton of money and then find out I'm either not good at it or I don't like it. Well, this is the place to come and do it. And a lot of people just say, why would I leave this? It's affordable, and it's just grin-inducing fun. Really a fun class.
And already I think we've seen some drivers, yes, they like to start here in Sunday Cup. It's a great launch point because it's affordable and approachable. It's also a great catch-all point for once you've spent a bunch of money on your super fast track mod or unlimited car. Now you want to come back down to a car that is just more track time, easier to run, but still the competition is fierce.
Yes.
And we're already seeing that here. You saw the 369 car of Lucas Urban reset that track record. Those are the pink cars on the timing and scoring. We have our track battle class legend that has all the different colors. We'll show you here in a little bit to get your idea of what the different categories are.
And Urban just broke the track record, he said earlier, by another 2/10. So conditions right now, that's the answer. Conditions right now, really fast.
Yeah, they really are. On the screen on the left, you got your timing and scoring tower. The teal colors, that is your street modified category. Of course, this is Group D, so these are the drivers that are still working up to pace here this weekend. The blue is your street category. The pink is your Sunday Cup. The yellow is your street GT. The gray is Falcon Club TR. And I think that got all of them except for Unlimited and Track Mod, which are red and orange. We'll see those guys a little bit later here in the first sessions of the day. So cars on track, there's a great look at that turn 8 and 9 complex there. So fast. And the curbing here is also really flat, so you can get on top of that, kind of hook the car around the corners. Not a lot of mistakes you can make jumping curbs like a lot of the other tracks we go to.
Exactly, and they're very helpful curbs too. I mean, when you turn into that fast chicane, there's actually a curb on the left that when it's dry, you can actually get up on that, open your arc a little bit more into turn 8 as it tightens up. The exit exit of 8, there's a curb there, and everybody says murder the curb, just mow it down. And even if you drop your lefts behind the curb even, that is going to be a really, really quick way to get around that corner. In the wet, whole different story. You want to stay off the curbs. They are painted, and the aggregate, they don't have a lot of aggregate in the paint, a little bit, but not a lot, so they're really, really slick. And this is that run, that entry into that chicane. And as you can see, it's really fast. There's the curb right in the middle of the track that if you really think you need it, you can get onto it. But you want to turn in, be all the way driver's left so that you can get it to pivot and carry a lot of speed through turn 8, which is the following corner here. This is the fastest stretch of the track by far.
And there's a pretty significant bump on entry to this corner on as you get driver's left to turn into turn 8. There's a gnarly bump, but it kind of sets your car up and gives you the ability to dig into the right-hander at turn 8. I was talking with some of the Falcon Club TR competitors yesterday, and they liked that bump there. They thought it really gave their front end the dig when they compressed the nose of the car to turn in for that very fast right-hander. Wanted to quickly mention Lucas Urban in that 369 car. That is, of course, that Ford ZX2 that's leading in Sunday Cup right now. Aaron Cooper, though, out of Wichita, Kansas, 2012 Honda Fit. He's currently second on the leaderboard. And good to see a local guy jump into the mix here with this approachable class.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And track knowledge is really going to be critical here because this is a tricky place. And it takes a little while to learn it. And talking to some of the drivers earlier, they were saying it's one of those tracks, kind of like Lime Rock, where you guys were earlier this year, where it's easy to get close to the absolute best you can do, but those last few tenths are really tricky to find. Another big bump is when you come down this front straight, this is Alpha, that little bend to the left. Now you go up and over the rise, you fall down into 2, and right about here, as he starts to turn in, you cross the drag strip, and there is a substantial bump as you do that. So you've got to be a little bit wary of that if you're really flying through that section of track. And as you can see, when you get off of, there are spots on this track, Kyle, where there's not a lot of runoff before you get into concrete wall. So that's always something you've got to be paying a bit of attention to.
Jim Smith-Aline jumps up to second in Sunday Cup, a 159.472. So that puts the 130 car in second in Sunday Cup at the moment. We're following the number 205. That is Neil out of Superior, Wisconsin in 2005 Mazda RX-8 in the street modified category. As we continue to work our way through Track Battle D at the moment.
Holy cow, Urban obliterated the record.
Oh, wow.
He's gone a 158.7, and the old record, he's a second underneath Matt's old record here. These conditions are superb.
Last year, it was pretty warm when we came here. We came in the middle of August, I believe, if I recall correctly. So the temperatures were in the 70s, 80s, and I think the track temps were in the 90s. So this morning, with temperatures in the 50s, that track temp's really cool. It's overcast today. There's going to be a lot of grip available in the Falcon RT660 tires for those Sunday Cup cars. Also wanted to mention the 411 Kyle Carsons. I have to give a big thank you to Kyle and all the guys over at the Hard Times Racing Shop. They helped me set up my Fiesta for Sunday Cup last week on a Sunday afternoon. Kyle and Charlie and, of course, Anthony Novelli, they were basically going through my suspension work, made sure I wasn't messing anything up. They found a couple things that would have been a frustrating find at the racetrack. So big thanks to the HTR guys.
Well, that's part of the paddock at any kind of motorsports event, really, but certainly when you're talking club racing, and certainly here in Grid Life, there's an awful lot of camaraderie in the paddock, and that's what really makes it fun. And right there is a car you're probably not going to see lapping anywhere else these days, and it's really cool that there's a spot for it here in Grid Life.
It's a 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass in the street modified category. That's Cody Smith out of Two Harbors, Minnesota, and he's brought this car to a bunch of Grid Lifes before and consistently been working on it. And there's been a lot of improvement in both his times and how the car is set up. It doesn't dive and move around as much as it did before. It's stiffened up significantly. And right now, at the top of the board here overall, with a 49.6, he'll probably end up moving forward in the run.
Oh, and he's off.
Well, okay. So, commentator curse there, Greg.
Yes, exactly. But, there you can see there's a fair amount of runoff over there. You push it, you get into it, you make the mistake, and you learn the limit at that point. And I think that was one of those scenarios where it looked to me like he went into that wide arc and then tried to get it to turn down to the apex. And with something that is that big and that powerful, turn in early, let that banking grab you and pivot you around that corner, and he'll get there. He'll learn that.
It's something that you mentioned to me before we went live is the banking here. There's a lot of drivers that haven't necessarily experienced banking. If you're a circle track guy, sure, you understand how that works. But for road course racers, there's not a lot of places in North America that have tracks with significant camber. Watkins Glen's the one that immediately comes to my mind that has some camber to it. But turn 3 here has quite a bit. I don't know the degree value, but it's high enough that it matters.
Well, that climb from Alpha 1, 2, and then dropping down into the exit of 2, you basically make most of that up coming up through 3. And so it climbs and it's got banking to it. So what that means is, one, you've got gravity working for you. So you could throw the car in there a little quicker than you normally would because the gravity is going to help slow you down just a little bit. But with that banking, you can also just pitch it in, let the banking catch you, and just keep it snug around the inside. And if you're running that wide line with a late apex, you might exit that turn with a smidge more speed. But somebody who's running that tight line around it, if they're exiting it just a little bit, maybe less than you are, but one, they're running a shorter line, and if when they did that rotation that you have to do, if you're running that high line to get to that apex, you got to sort of pivot it and diamond it a little bit, right? That can cost you some speed. You run that tight inside line, it's a shorter distance, you flow more speed in. So even if you're maybe a tick off coming out, overall through that corner, you're going to be quite a bit ahead. It's really the quick way to go.
So checkered flag here on Track Battle Group D, and on the screen now, that is the 244 Honda Fit of Aaron Cooper. That's the driver running third in this particular session at a 59.779. Smith Aline up in the 130 car second in this run group, but Lucas Urban, again, resetting the track record in Sunday Cup. Again, the conditions are prime, but again, he just continues to nip away at
Incredible.
it. This will probably be the time in the day to run your quick laps, but as drivers get comfortable, and there's a significant comfort level that you need to get to really go fast around here. They might go faster later today and tomorrow.
They might, because the conditions today are supposed to stay chilly. It's not, we're supposed to get up into the mid-50s maybe, and that'll still be good conditions. One of the things is going to be, we've got a pretty good little wind going on right now. If that picks up, that could actually slow you down a little bit, because the wind is all the way out of 7 down that whole backstretch through that chicane. It's a headwind, and if you got a car that utilizes aero, that might help you a little bit. But in a car that's a little underpowered, sometimes that'll actually, slow you down. So if the wind dies down just a little bit, and we get a little bit of sun to warm that track up just a smidge, this afternoon could still see some really fast times. But right now, engines are loving this power.
They really are. Checkered flag, though. John Raymond holding the checkered flag there up on the flag tower. Wanted to quickly mention another competitor in Sunday Cup this weekend, the Rocks trailer sales with Jimmy Rauch driving that, one of the co-drivers in that car. Typically, he's in a Track Mod GT2 RS, so running this weekend a 1992 Honda Civic, so that's a heck of a change.
Seriously.
But the Fuji Imports Racing team out of Lexington, Kentucky running that car, that is definitely a change. We'll see how they do. Right now down the order just a touch there in Sunday Cup, but I'm sure they'll start sorting things out by the end of the weekend.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's part of it. You just keep, massaging and tweaking, working on the setup. If this is not a track you're really familiar with, you take your best stab at it from prior knowledge, or, somebody helps you out a little bit with some setup ideas, but you still got to massage it a little bit once you get here. And, you'll see some people make some big gains from a session to session. Well, that means they probably started a bit off on the setup and they're massaging it. You see the people that you don't see those big incremental changes. If they're up near the top, means that they rolled off the truck with a pretty good setup just to start with.
Looks like a tow for the 205 car. I wanted to also quickly mention Jacob Abbott running 5th right now in Sunday Cup. He is 2nd in the season points behind Matt Williams by about 30 points. So I don't think eclipsing Matt Williams is very likely this weekend, but he certainly is going to give it a run for his money here this weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're, you're going for a championship, he has had some really, really good weekends and has stayed relatively close. Matt's been a bit dominant, but for Jacob, he's never given up on it, and he's got an outside shot. You're going to keep pedaling.
We often talk about Matt Williams and his Honda Fit. That car, I think, statistically, is the winningest car in GRIDLIFE history, because Matt Williams just consistently keeps winning.
Clicking them off.
Every weekend. He just is so talented, and that car is very well set up. So I'm excited to get to run against these guys a little bit next year. I have a 2012 Ford Fiesta hatchback that I'll be running in 2023. Not at the streamed events, but all the non-streamed events. And if I can just take home at least a third-place trophy at one of these events next year, I'm going to feel pretty good. I'm feeling okay. Yeah. The Fiesta's actually got a lot of power for the class, so the car can be pretty heavy. I'm not exactly a small guy either, so 25-to-1 power to weight is how that gets sorted out at the end of the day. So we'll see how it dynos and see where we are, but I'm excited to participate.
And again, this class is just so much fun for relatively, I mean, anything to do with high-speed motorsports is not cheap, but this class is about as cost-effective as you can get in and really have a lot of fun. And the cars, for the most part, are bulletproof on top of it.
Right.
So, it isn't like you're dealing with expensive fixes all the time. You just get out and go.
Oh, you blew your motor? Well, $50 in a junkyard, and you've got that problem solved.
There you go, exactly.
Also, in Street GT, I know we're jumping a gun here a little bit on talking about some of these championship battles, but for the guys at the top of Street GT, that is Cody Hunt and Steve Luca, they are tied coming into this round in a Corvette and a Mustang GT350R. So that is going to be a blast to watch this weekend. I think that is our closest championship. You can't get much closer than a tie.
After all of the events,
it's crazy.
They come in tied. And that tells you just how close the competition is.
It was hundredths between those two at Lime Rock Park, and that's a small track for some big, heavy cars, and it was a blast to watch that fight. But this weekend, we'll keep our eyes peeled on those guys. Heading into Group C here shortly, and this is going to be, again, the next kind of group up in terms of speed, and Ian Flavin is at the top of the board in Club TR, in this run group in the Club TR BRZ at the moment. Ernestus Pizzelis is back after an accident he had back at Gingerman Raceway in June. Good to see him back. A couple others to note. Alex Moss is not in his typical car this weekend. That car had an accident at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Moss is in a Club TR S2000 this weekend, and the car makes about 176 horsepower, which is definitely not enough to be at the pointy end of Club TR. So Alex is going to give it all he's got. We know how talented he is, but he's going to be in the thick of it this weekend.
He's out there just to drive and get out of the car with a big smile. That's what this is about. Yeah, obviously, if you're competitive, you want to run it at the sharp end. You want to be going for wins and podiums. But the bigger part of it is you love cars and you love driving them fast, and so you come out and you get to do this. And you see that plane right there, folks. We are right next door, not only to the Topeka Regional Airport, but there's also a wonderful historic and vintage museum for all kinds of old warplanes, and they are on display. We actually saw a DC-3 coming in earlier today. Just incredible.
If it was the military spec for the aviation nerds, I believe that would be a C-47. But I don't know precisely if it was just a decal DC-3. But it was spectacular. I know our staff photographer Rob Wilkinson caught it flying over with some of the cars on pit lane. So that's a photo I would frame if I was Dana Basinski.
Yeah.
So.
You just saw 4. I think they're called KC-135, which is the military version of the old 707, the Boeing Starliner. So there's some great stuff that is around here that you can enjoy some time. The museum is really fabulous. So some nice things to be able to do here along with enjoying some fabulous competition here.
Yeah, one of the UH-60 helicopters flew right over the top of me as I was driving into the racetrack yesterday. They found me.
Here's your ride.
Yes, it does make the aerial coverage a little challenging this weekend, so bear with us. We do have some drone coverage, and again, big thanks to the stream team and Matt for making sure this can all happen. It is really difficult to get approval to fly drones this close to airports in general, but let alone where they're flying military aircraft. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, very, very restrictive height levels. But fortunately, the guys that fly the drones for our coverage are superb, and they can get you great coverage from 10 feet. So we're good.
We're doing great. So cars on track now. This is Group C for Track Battle. Cars that we mentioned, we talked about Alex Moss, Foster Johnson in the number 41 Honda S2000 in Club TR. Nathan Poulsen, Alex Moss, and Foster Johnson already within a couple tenths of a second of each other in 5th in this run group, so that should be fun to watch. Drew Turner also making a return in Club TR in the number 9 S2000. Jeremy Bailey in a FRS is here as well. And a couple new drivers. The team She Breaks, He Fixes, the number 750 car. They're going to be headed on track here shortly as well.
You got to love that.
Doug Hill's also in track mod in a Honda Civic. Will be in this group as we take the green flag here in Time Attack Group C. On track here at Heartland Motorsports Park for GRIDLIFE Finals. And on screen now is the number 38 car, which is that's Ernestus Pazelis. That is his S2000. He previously had a 370Z that he ran in competition, but nice decals on this car. Certainly looks the part.
Looks really, really sharp. And this is that long climbing bank turn 3, and you float out of it here, and then you get set really quick flick into 4. You can flow a lot more speed than you think when you look at the layout of the track. Now here's turn 5, late apex, that one. It's tight, and you can see somebody locked up just a little bit. And now here is that key turn 6, where you don't want to get in too early. You want to make sure you get it straightened out so you can get to power as early as possible, because this turn through turn 7, just really just a flick here. You keep it on the throttle, and now here comes that chicane. And as I said, it's really fast into it, and then there's just a little dab of the brake to slow yourself down and get through turn 8 right where he is there. And then now you're heading into turn number 10, and that is the really, really tricky and technical part of the track here. And you can see how from everything else we've seen so far, it's tight, and then it just continually gets tighter, decreasing radius, little turns here. And you have to give up the exits of some corners to be good through here. You got to give up the exit at 10. You got to give up the entry to 12 to get yourself really squared up. And here, the exit at 13, you just give that up completely to set you up to get onto this front straight with as much flow as you can right there.
And this is essentially a drag strip. It parallels the drag strip here at Heartland Motorsports Park. But, you know, one of the interesting things, looking at this track map here that's sitting in front of me on the table, my brain actually is having trouble comprehending what I saw yesterday out the cockpit of Nick Korz's car. It feels like the 10-11 chicane should be like kind of in line with 8 and 9. When you're in the car, it like you don't really comprehend that turn 10 is as tight as it is, and you're really changing directions entirely. It's almost a 90-degree corner, but it doesn't feel that way in the car because it's so fast.
Yes.
So again, I'm like having trouble relating my experience in Korz's car to what I'm seeing on the racetrack. Really unique place.
It is, and you know it gives you that fast swoopy section. Then that really quick flick through the chicane on the backstretch, that rise and fall through Alpha 1 and 2, and then that really tight technical section. And just dropping the rears there, Poulsen did just a little bit, really pushing the envelope here. And that's what you need to do. And nice job there, got it really rotated. And that allows you to get the, you can't accelerate when you've still got input into the front wheels, because then you just push and scrub. So you got to get it rotated so as you want to go to throttle, you're unwinding the wheel, and if you do that, you're golden. Here's that run into that chicane, and you can see really fast in, it tightens up just a smidge, and then if you're going to be really good, you're going to use that curb. A lot of the guys skirting it a little bit, but you just want to get your lefts up onto that curb as far as you can and straighten that out as much as you can.
Yeah, Poulsen picked up from his session this morning 150.286, and is an improvement by over a full second and a half here on a 51.8 this morning. So already picking up for him. Ryan Dussix in the number 2 Subaru. This car didn't get to run. It's a yellow Subaru WRX. That car didn't get to run at PPIR, which is Ryan's home track. Day 1, hood flew up, smashed the windshield. That was it for the weekend, which already happened to Grant Davidson. We'll talk about that in Group B coming up next. But the Falcon Club TR battle is incredibly tight if the Grant Davidson's car doesn't podium this weekend. But if he podiums, it's pretty much his championship to lose. But already trouble for him. We'll get into that a little bit later in the day. But here's a look at the 199. That's Ian Flavin in Falcon Club TR. His fastest time this morning was a 50.8 and a 52.3. So a little off for Ian so far in this session.
You know, you mentioned the drag strip and the front straight running along the drag strip. When this was originally built, you used the drag strip. But there were two things. When you turn off of the drag strip to get into turn what is now 2, it was such a tight chicane. It was really a lot of accidents at the start of races and the like there. The other part of it was the drag strip. When you come out of 14 and onto the drag strip, it was in the wet because of the sealant they use for the drag strip. Was diabolically slippery, and you get cars that would just lose it suddenly and just hit the walls. And so when Ray Irwin bought the track, who'd been the owner of Blackhawk Farms, he said, we got to change that, and created this new section of Alpha 1-2, which I like a lot better. It's a lot more fun and flowy. and it also avoids that grip issue.
And that 654 car, Nick, apologize for this pronunciation, a girder, I believe. I'm going to stick with that until I get told otherwise. He had a big tank slap moment in this Ford Focus RS, and this is a unique vehicle. This is an all-wheel drive Ford Focus, and they don't make these anymore, Greg, but they were really cool, awesome, high-performance cars so you could get from factory from Ford. Just another step up from their ST line that they had with the Focus and the Fiesta. But Nick had a big moment there, big kind of four-wheel drift out of turn 8 and into 9. I think we're going to see a lot of that because you're carrying so much speed. Big smoke bomb down in turn number 1. I heard tires slipping over there, so I don't know if this is engine or tire smoke, but either way, the source of it has been eliminated.
Apparently, yeah. And, you know, you talked about that RS. That was a really, and here it is again, a really popular rally car.
Yeah.
With those Focus RSs because of the all-wheel drive, and they're actually really snappy in the horsepower department.
Yeah, they certainly are. I think they're in the 300s, I believe. So definitely quick, capable cars, very stiff cars that are capable of carrying some Gs. And that car, the 540, that is Doug Hill's, and that's the Track Mod Civic we were mentioning earlier. So it looks like Doug has had an issue. Again, that could have also been engine smoke. That we don't want to see that be the case, but it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 28 car is on track right now, and that car, I believe, is that the Not Fast Motorsports FRS. That would be my assumption. That's typically them, but I never like to assume coming into a weekend where we've got a lot of new folks. But that is the 22 car. 28 car, excuse me. Yes, that's Not Fast out of Inner Grove Heights, Minnesota, the 2016 FRS. And Peter Zhang is one of the drivers in that typically. And he's typically sharing the car, but looks like a little bit of a splitter air dam situation going on. That's a new development for this car. Otherwise, the engine in this thing is completely stock. I think they've added an oil cooler to help with on-track temps, but this is, I believe, a Club TR car, and this is about as basic as an FRS gets for track use.
And you can see that wing on the back. That does make a difference. And there you got a nice idea of that run through 3 when you just stay tight to the inside. And that other car was letting him go through, but you can see that you make up a lot of ground if you can keep it pinned a little bit there and just use that banking to sort of, as I said, it just sort of guides you almost through that corner.
Again, I talk about this chassis a lot. This is about the closest you're going to get to my car out there. I have an orange FRS, but again, a very well-balanced chassis from factory. A little bit weak in the engine department, but I don't know that there is a more balanced, inexpensive, new car that you can get that's really any better than these. Sure, an S2000 is probably a higher performance value, but you have to get one with pretty high mileage to get one around the same price as one of these. So
yeah, absolutely.
The really great performance cars, and again, if you can sort out the engine issue with a K-swap or something of the sort, then you've got a really competitive car. We see a ton of those KBRZs, KFRSs in our Club TR class, kind of at the pointy end. Dana Baczynski is one of those. We'll talk about him in Group B, but the 28 Not Fast car through the final couple corners here and getting himself set up.
You let me take yours out for a couple of laps at Gingerman, and I mean, that's exactly what I found. It was so fun to drive because of the balance. You could really flow some nice, speed, and the car would just and when you started to feel you were at the limit, it was user friendly. It let you know I'm there, so don't overdo it here at that point. So yeah, great little chassis.
Here's Ryan Dessix again. We talked about him, how he had the broken windshield at PPIR. Well, he's got the windshield replaced, and at the top of the board here, he is running in, I believe, the unlimited class, so this car will probably be outgunned when Ferris Khartoumi shows up a little later today, but we'll give him credit for being here and giving it a go. And again, this car we've seen in a lot of different time attack competitions across North America, and this is really the first time we've seen it on track this year because of the early out at Alpine.
He's got a 1:45.8 going. I mean, that's 3 seconds quicker than anybody else in this session. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to stand up to a Ferris Khartoumi time. But nonetheless, he's still really putting up some nice times here.
And in terms of the track records, we talk about unlimited class records. I don't know. We did have some unlimited cars last year. they weren't quite up to, we talk about the Ferris level because he's just so far and away. That car is ridiculous. But it was Brad Perkins last year in the number 459 car. It was the BMW M3, a 138.294. I'm pretty confident we're going to see faster than that. Jackie Ding in Street Mod just ran a 138.8 earlier today. So I think we're going to see some pretty quick laps. And in terms of Jackie's time last year, a 37.8, that was the fastest lap we saw across the board. So we're already knocking on the door of that so far this weekend.
That just tells you how these conditions are right now. Wind aside, it really is. This is horsepower weather. There's no question about that. Really cool. The air is dense, packed with oxygen, and engines love it. Turbos or normally aspirated. When it's chilly, they make better power.
I
Simple.
forgot to mention this to you, and I'm not sure if I emailed it to you, but we talked about the drag strip.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that we're running the drag strip on Saturday night?
No.
We're running the drag strip on Saturday night.
Really?
Yeah. We won't be on a live stream, unfortunately, but we do have access to the drag strip, and we are going to be having runs, and people can, throw it. I don't know what they cost, $50 or whatever, but they're going to go out and have some fun. I've heard Jeremy Swenson and Andy Smedegaard, they brought Nos with them, so we might see that after the championship is decided, they're going to throw some bottle at it and see how fast they can go.
See what happens. Oh, I love that idea.
And uncorked tunes. Now, Andy Smedegaard recently won his class at the King of the Mountain competition, which is kind of an autocross style time attack competition, and he ran uncorked with Nos and was very, very fast. So
I can imagine.
And the engine still held up, and he brought it to a GLTC race a couple weeks later and won a race.
Won a race.
That's amazing.
Still nosed?
No.
Not that you're aware of.
He showed up to a race. I think it was at Mid-Ohio. He had the bottle in the back of the car, and I was like, you should take that out.
Even if it didn't hooked up. Just saying.
There's the 234. That's Brad Riemann. We've seen him around a bunch. This is another one of those Ford Focus RS cars. This is the one that we're familiar with that's been in our paddock for a while. And Brad, at the moment, looking at the timing and scoring on the left-hand side of the screen, is down in 16th overall behind Tom Halka in street class at a 52.928.
You see what I mean about giving up the exit of 10? You don't want to, if you're mid-track at the exit, you're too far over, because you've got to be able to flow a little bit of speed through 11. That's a quicker corner than you think it is. And then you've got to sacrifice right at the exit of 11 to get squared up through 12. And it all, really comes down through the quickest line that you could take, getting from 10 to the exit of 14, because the exit of 14 is payoff time.
It really is. And you talk about, the compromise at the exit of that corner. It's a lot like Mid-Ohio, coming over the crest at Madness. You really stay track left or just to the right, or just to the left to center as you come over that crest, because the next straight sort of kink through where under the Honda bridge used to be, you're trying to carry a lot of speed through there, so you really give that up. Here's Tom Halka, by the way, in the 700 car, and that is the number 510, and that is not what we want to see. That's Piero Pucci in Club TR, and that car looks like it's taken an impact on the right side. Airbags deployed there.
It sure does.
So that is a frustrating situation, but
we heard the squeal. We just didn't catch it, and obviously he smote that wall pretty good with that right front corner.
Yeah, that is fairly significant right front damage, and it's unfortunate to see, Greg, but this is, again, a fast racetrack, high risk in a lot of areas, and you have to put the car on the edge to make speed. And it's just a shame this early in the weekend for Pucci that it's going to end like this.
Well, and what we haven't really addressed is we did get that little bit of rain. Well, the track's nice and dry, but that grass now is still probably a little damp, even with this wind. So as we know, you get off of a track at speed onto wet grass, you literally pick up speed. And so there's not a whole lot of getting rid of speed before you get into these concrete barriers that you do have at this track and spots.
Yeah, so checkered flag out for Track Battle Group C, and unfortunately Piero Pucci has found the wall. I'm trying to figure out where this is. This is the entry to turn 5, I believe, on driver's left, which is kind of a unique place to have an incident.
I wonder if
tracked out of 4 and just got wide and slipped backwards, but
I think that's entirely possible.
He went a long way. I don't really see tire tracks either.
You wonder if he came out of 3 and made, or as you said, came out of 4 and just lost got the rights or the lefts too far over that curb. And there, I see the track.
Oh yeah, there it is now.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened. He got his lefts on the back side of that curb, and it just hooked him. And over he went.
Yeah, frustrating situation, but looked like he was moving around in the car. Definitely frustrated, but the Heartland Motorsports Park crew going to work, and they'll get this car towed. I think we'll step away for a moment. We'll return with Track Battle Group B here in just a couple minutes.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
Hey, we still on this weekend for a little?
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting the wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
Those who don't settle when others do. For those who are set free by performance and believe innovation can take you anywhere.
Ed Vance here, and I'm at my favorite place again.
Sorry, did you say your name is Ed Vance?
That's me.
Like advance?
Crazy, right? And it just so happens he knows everything in advance.
Oh, you know the future? Did you know I needed 10W30?
No. I just know everything here in Advance Auto Parts, like where the 10W30 is.
So you don't know what I'll do next?
Actually, I do. You will be going to the oil aisle.
He's good.
He's Advance.
I spent a lot of time here.
He's here a lot.
This is how we advance.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Welcome back to Grid Life Finals at Heartland Motorsports Park. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer. Time Attack Group B coming up here in just a couple of minutes. For the first time on the live stream this weekend, there was one run group a little earlier today to kind of establish our grids here. So Group B is going to contain most of our Falcon Club TR competitors, some of our Street Mod competitors, and a whole bunch of our Street GT competitors as well. So there's going to be some fast cars in this group, Greg, including Alex Westergaard in Street Modified. We're going to see Mike Coons in Street. We're going to see Peter Granberg and Fez Bobber in the K-Swap BRZ and new GR86. So we're going to see some fast cars and some competition here. Probably the second, thirds, and fourths of the categories for each of the ones I just mentioned. Group A will be coming up shortly, and that will have all the names that you're familiar with: Jackie Ding, Mike Omick, Nick Kors, Nick Gardner, and more. So that's what's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're just finishing up a recovery of the number 510 Apiro Pucci, who had a little bit of a slip up at the exit of turn number 4. Got passenger side into the concrete, a little bit of damage on that car, but that's what we're waiting on here as we're getting set. So there's the cars on the grid getting ready to roll. The blue BMW towards the front, that's Corey Ross in track mod. He was with us at Alpine Horizon a couple of weeks ago. Good to see him back out here. A 146.788 is the fastest that car has gone today. And following Mario Marone in the 627 Club TR Civic, that will be rolling off at the pointy end of this grid. So this is, again, our Group B track battle cars. Here at Heartland Motorsports Park, we talked about the risk versus reward at this racetrack, how fast and flowing it is. Now we're getting into the cars that have some aero, have some horsepower, and this is when things start to get really fun to watch.
It is, and I think it speaks very highly of just how impressively quick Club TR cars are here. You think about it, you're looking at a track mod car at a 46.7, street GTs at 46.7s, some pretty serious stuff. And Mario Marone in that number 627 Club TR front-wheel drive car, a Civic, running 0.3 quicker than everybody in that group. So these Club TR cars are very quick. You put a good driver behind the wheel, you see some pretty impressive stuff. And he's not the fastest of the bunch. There's a couple of them in the A group.
Yeah, Dana Basinski right now is fastest in Falcon Club TR. And actually, while we have a moment, let's explain the Club TR situation.
Sure.
Here. So I asked the Club TR guys in their group chat, what's the scenario here between Dana and Grant Davidson? Because those are the two guys at the pointy end of the class. Davidson in that front-wheel drive Integra. Basinski is in a rear-wheel drive K-Swap BRZ. And essentially the situation is if Grant Davidson doesn't podium and Dana wins, it'll be Dana's championship. If Grant podiums, Dana can't really do anything. That was the scenario that they laid out for me. The challenge is already this weekend the racing gods have tried to smite Grant Davidson. Hood flew up yesterday in a test session, destroyed the windshield. He has to drive about 3 hours away to go pick up a replacement, and Grant has not been on track yet this weekend. So pending how everything else goes, right now, it looks like Dana Basinski would be in a position to, if we ended the weekend right now, Dana Basinski would be your Falcon Club TR champion. That's how close things are.
It's incredibly tight.
But once Grant gets that car sorted, then Dana's got some real competition here. So that's what we're following. Grant will probably make it later today or tomorrow. But, again, you're counting on everything else to work right, and that's a little bit scary to rely on that.
Well, yeah, and you haven't had any track time, so you haven't been able to dial it up, tweak on it at all. You've got to come out and immediately go quick. And secondly, today is the day probably when the conditions are best for maximum power. And so, tomorrow is going to be a much nicer day, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better for power because as it gets warmer, you lose a little bit of that. And so that's going to be a real concern. So Grant's got work to do.
He certainly does.
No question.
Cars rolling on the racetrack now. There's Peter Granberg in the blue BRZ. There's Fez Bobber in the yellow GR86 rolling off onto the racetrack. A couple PhD Supras joining the party now. If you'd like to follow along with timing and scoring and scroll at your leisure, head to racehero.io. But we're going to have timing and scoring up on the left-hand side of the screen, color-coded for your convenience once drivers start to lay down some times. There's a Radical on the racetrack. That will fall into our Super Unlimited category, Greg. That is a rare entry in Super Unlimited. We don't get a lot of those. That's really the catch-all for non-VIN-numbered cars that were never intended to be used for the street. You're asking, well, how is Ferris's car not Super Unlimited? That's super fast. Well, it started life as a street car.
Yes.
Cars that are purpose-built, that started life as a race car, go into the Super Unlimited category and have their own separate competition. That is one of the examples of those cars here this weekend.
There are a couple of them I saw in the paddock, a couple of the sports prototypes, if you will.
Yeah,
so
there is a few. I know there's a couple running in HPDE, and in terms of the Super Unlimited class, there's also Dodge Viper competition here this weekend. We saw that car here last year. I don't think it was running in track battle, though, so we'll see how it does here this weekend. On track now, that's the 727 car of Trey Tyler, Street Mod WRX, rolling around the racetrack, getting warmed up here. And warming up, that's a pretty important thing when the temperature's this cool. Got to get tires in your heat in your tires, and heat in your brakes for everything to work efficiently when it's this cool like today.
It is. I mean, we have no sun on the track. It's been cloudy for the most part, that little bit of rain, so you're not getting any sunlight that's heating the track, which can help bring your tires up to temp. So you've got to do the work before you really start to lay laps in. And one of the best ways you can heat tires, you can scrub them back and forth. That helps with surface heat a little bit. But if you can, you want to go out. If you've got any kind of good alloy rim, you want to just dynamite your brakes and let that brake heat radiate through the rim, because then it heats the tire inside out. It's a much more uniform heat, and it also gets the pressure in the tire more uniform, as opposed to having all the temp on the surface of the tire, which obviously, you can do damage, you can blister it and the like. So that's a good way to do it as well. But the magic thing is, everybody's, well, why do you need heat in the tires? Well, two things. One, the compound of the rubber requires heat to generate grip. That's step one. And two, the heat in the tire determines what the pressure is in the tire, and the car is set up so that it's going to operate at its absolute best handling-wise with a specific pressure in that tire that the suspension is dialed around to. So if you're overpressured, then what happens, the temperature comes up, it's too much pressure in the tire, you're not going to be quick. If you don't get the tire up to temp, the pressure never gets up to where you want it, and again, you're not going to be as quick as you can be. So those are the two reasons. The compound requires heat to generate stick, and you also need that pressure to be right, which is determined by temperature in the tire for the car to be at its best.
Certainly, and Falcon RT660s on the 610. That's Fez Bobber's car. Now, I have to apologize to Fez a little bit. At Alpine Horizon, the first session we saw Fez on the racetrack, he was cutting corners and jumping curbs, and we kind of called him out for that, and we were kind of joking post-event about that. But here he is on track now. This is a 2022 GR86. We talked about the FRS BRZ. Again, these cars new, around $30,000. Great performance values, and Fez has really proven that here. 2.4-liter Boxer Subaru-sourced engine, but the same rear-wheel drive front-engine combination from the previous generation car. And Fez has got quite the wing on this, and this is an interesting wing. It's so high in the air. I've never really seen a wing this tall with a wing mount like that on this particular chassis.
Yeah, well, it gets it up into the airstream a lot more, doesn't it? It also means it's going to be a bit more draggy. But if what you're looking for is grip, the higher into the airstream, the cleaner the approach of the air onto that wing is going to be better. And, of course, you've got flow coming over the windshield. And so if you want some stick, but you don't want it to be draggy, you have it mounted a little bit lower. Here, it's right up there where the air coming right off of the windscreen is just going to hit it. And remember, it isn't the flow over the wing other than the wicker on the back that you might have. It's the flow under the wing and the shape of the wing. It's like taking an airplane wing, turning it upside down, generates that low pressure area underneath the wing, and that's what creates the stick. So it's all about the airflow to the wing and how you want to manage it, grip versus drag.
Yeah, a little bit of traffic here for Fez as he rolls through turn number 5 and down towards turn 6. Looks like a point by there. Good courtesy to just let the faster drivers go and not impede their progress. Little wiggle there out of turn number 7.
And why? He got pinched on his exit of that turn, and then you try and get on the hammer, and that's what's going to happen.
And he's chasing Peter Gramberg, who's just up the road in that blue K-Swap BRZ. Peter is running in Falcon Club TR as well. They were 2/10 apart in the previous session. And last time around, Gramberg ran a 47.5, which was a big pickup, 2 seconds quicker than his lap in the previous session.
Then Marone had a 46.4 earlier.
Man.
He's at a 46 flat. So these are just prime conditions right now, just for power. Engines are just loving it right now.
There's Mario working his way through turn number 3, an uphill climb here. We talked about the banking. Alex Westergaard jumps up to second overall here. Yeah, Westergaard's this year, he's had some issues with the engine in that car and thought his season was over, but they took it into the shop, discovered something that was relatively easy to fix, and here they are competing again at the end of the season. So a 145.7, not a bad start.
And that's a 3-second gain over where he ran this morning.
Yeah.
So, now that they got that engine fixed, now they can start tweaking setups and the like, and it's paying off big time right now.
Bobber picked up a 47.8, so he's going to follow Gramberg's improvement there, and they're going to run nose to tail. That'll be an interesting fight to follow, just because I think as it stands, Mario Marone right now is second in, make that third in Club TR. Evan Weeder is currently second. So really, Peter and Fez are fighting for 4th in Falcon Club TR. That could very quickly become a battle for the podium, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But Mario right now making a lot of speed. A little bit of understeer there. You see the tires turning at a sharper angle than the car was moving, but he's making hay right now.
This is that really technical, twisty section. Patience is everything in this section, and as we've often said, that's often anathema to a race car driver is patience. But you've just got to be disciplined and say, don't overcharge this corner, because then I'm going to be slow through the next 2. You've got to have that big picture approach to really good laps. And he is certainly giving it some serious hustle. And boom, a 45.73. Not too bad at all. Puts him second in this group behind only Hendricks.
Yeah, really impressive start to the weekend for Mario Marone. The 347 of Hendricks, if I'm not wrong, I was wrong. That's a 2013 Chevrolet Corvette out of Belvedere, Illinois. Hendricks right now in that street GT category. That's what the yellow is. Here's a good look at that Subaru we saw a couple minutes ago. That is the 600 car of West. That is Jeffrey West out of Littleton, Colorado in an 06 Subaru Impreza. And again, we don't really see a lot of Subarus throughout the year, but when we go out to the kind of further into the Midwest and into Colorado and here at Heartland Park, we see a lot of Subarus, a lot of all-wheel drive cars, which are welcome additions in classes that tend to be kind of rear-wheel and front-wheel drive heavy.
Absolutely, and these cars are quick. I mean, they were designed to be, sort of little rockets. There's no question about it. And, here you can get those blazingly hot days in the summer, but you can get some sketchy conditions in the winter here. And so I think, for performance driving in these kind of conditions, all-wheel drive, especially in the damp, those cars are going to be really, really strong.
Yeah, working his way through turn number 3 right now. Another car that I just see on the timing, I should mention, Andreas Bertulis in the 171. That is a Lexus RCF running in Unlimited. It's been a little while since we've seen Bertulis around. That's the red on the timing and scoring is your Unlimited category. It looks like we also have a track-modified competitor, the number 103, and that is Brandon Oglesby out of Pueblo West, Colorado. The Flying Lap BMW 135 is the track mod car. I saw that's got some fender flares on it and stuff. Really neat looking car.
It is. It is. One of the things, too, about this track, and I was just watching it here with his run, is in that when you come out of 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, they come at you in a hurry in a fast car. And, you might have just literally an instant where you're actually straight on the wheel. Because you through the turn, you unwind, and then you're turning again. And there's a lot of trail braking into corners. And see, it ran a little wide there at the exit of 10. And that probably slowed him down just a smidge here through 11 and 12. Again, coming out of 10, you don't want to be much more than halfway, mid-track, so that you can really get set up for 11 and be able to get that rotated into 12.
I think this is a great area for an all-wheel drive car, is the dig out of the corner.
Yes.
You've got tons of grip from the front-wheel drive pull, the rear-wheel drive push. And I talked to Tom O'Gorman about this track a lot in the off-season, about how, it flows a lot, and there's really only 2 real big digs. One is out of turn number 14 here onto the front straightaway, and the other is out of 6 leading into 7, 8, and 9. Now, in a car that's all-wheel drive, you're not fighting a lot of oversteer or a lot of understeer. You get that thing rotated, and you're planting the throttle, and you're going, and you're not fighting tail happiness at that stage. So a good spot for that car.
And if you get one set up really well, as you go to throttle, you have just a touch of oversteer. So that as you're going to throttle, the back end just rotates, and you just have that just the slightest little bit of opposite lock. I mean, minimal, but you're just pinning it, and it just accelerates out. And you're right, this track, those are the 2 key traction events, as they call it, 6 and 14. The rest of it's really flowy. And while we were talking, you saw that brief little teaser of the Beast sitting in the paddock area getting ready to go. That was Ferris Khartoumi. He'll be out in the next group. And that thing is a monster. We'll be talking about that. But I'm glad they gave us that shot, because you're not going to want to go anywhere.
No, certainly not. Track Battle A coming up. We're running this session in reverse order, so you have not missed the fast stuff if you just joined us here. Here's Corey Ross, by the way, running 5th in the track modified class as it stands, so he needs to gain a little bit more time to work his way up onto the podium. And right now a 45.847. And in terms of his time, that is a pickup of about 0.9 of a second from this morning. So again, we're seeing drivers get quicker. It was a little wet this morning, so as the track dries and the cool temperatures stay and drivers get more confident, I think we'll see times continue to fall.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Because one, confidence breeds speed. And, if you've been out and the track was sketchy and you didn't really feel comfortable with it, then you go out on a dry track, you start to dial it in just a little bit, make a couple of changes, and suddenly the car starts to feel good. That's the confidence factor that gives you speed, and that's what this is all about. So that's why it's entirely possible. We're going to see some great laps this morning, but this afternoon, again, because the temperatures are supposed to stay cool, we could still get some really good stuff, and that's just going to be the drivers that really get themselves dialed up and ready to go here.
Well, Group A cars getting lined up. Alex Westergaard to the top of the board at a 44.1. That is a great lap there.
Yeah, really uncorked it. That's the street mod car, the S2000. And that's a big number. I mean, a 48.7. So he has gone now 3.5 seconds quicker than he went this morning. And that's exactly what we were talking about. It's just that's the confidence factor that lets him really get a chance to go after it here as we take a look at the pre-grid getting ready to go for that Group A.
Ooh, a little bit of action here between the 324 and the 171 through the last couple corners here. If you saw the orange McLaren 720S, that's Andy Hollis. We've seen him here at this event in the past in a CRX, but bringing out the McLaren this time. And we'll talk a little bit more about Andy. And the other McLaren we've got, Jason Kanakri, in street modified in another 720S. So there's actually two of them, although it looks like Andy is running in the track mod class, so they're not running in the same category this weekend.
Beautiful cars, really, really fast. Good look here is Andreas Bertulis. That's the unlimited RCF right there. Just working through. Traffic's not really the word, just a different class car at this stage, who is on a cool down lap. But Andreas, you can see here, he just gets into 3, keeps it pinned to the inside. Look at that long rotation. But this camera shot doesn't really give you an idea of the elevation you're climbing and the level of banking. But it's there. And as you can see, you could take a really quick car and just pin it to the inside. And that's one of the things. Normally, a car that's got lots of power, you just want to bring it down into one of those long duration corners, just get it to the apex and just let it track there. Because normally a car with a fair amount of power also has some weight. And if you let it float out, it's tough to get it back down to the apex. And he drove that absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, the Lexus RCF is not a lightweight car by any stretch. They're definitely heavy beasts, but they're, again, Lexus is in this weird place right now where they're making very high performance cars, but they're kind of between luxury and performance, and they haven't really fully committed to either. And they're great cars, but they definitely could shed some weight if they really wanted to make them real weapons. But despite their weight, we see Bertulis running a 46.0. They definitely can make their way around a racetrack. He's got a cage in there, looks like, also. So that certainly is good to see. I always am in support of as much safety features as you can fit in a car, do it.
Absolutely.
The second I can get a cage in my Fiesta, even though I'm going 35 miles an hour, the safety thing is one of the first things you should invest in as a driver.
Absolutely. You know, from the gear that you wear, spend some money. Get the stuff that works. Get a really good cage. Please run a Hans device at all times. Those little things make a difference. And he's really going after it here. I like this. And he knows I've got clear track. I can do something right now. And there's that where you cross that drag strip. There's the bump right there. And right when you need to transition for 2, and you can see it can throw you out wide like that if you don't get it done just right. And now you can see a little bit. You turn into 3 there in the background, and you can see that that angle gives you an idea of the climb. And you can see the entire backside of that turn, the pavement. So that gives you an idea of the banking that you can use up through that corner.
Yeah, again, we talked about how this track is not flat, and it's actually got a little bit more elevation than, we talked about tracks having texture this year. This is a little bit more than texture at this stage. There is a little elevation. I wouldn't say that it's like Road America or Watkins Glen in that sense, but it definitely has a little bit of change, and it will definitely affect the dynamics of the car. There's Corey Ross working his way through turns 13 and 14, and we'll head back up onto the front straightaway here. And this has been a long session, but with 20 minutes until the scheduled start for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying, we can expect Track Battle A here shortly. And with a big group and a lot of time, I think that's why we see some of these drivers utilizing as much of this time as they can, because a lot of the drivers said, all right, I'm done. I've run my 15, 20 minutes. That opens up the track for guys that want to keep going.
Wow, does he have that splitter down on the deck in that number 437? Corey Ross does that M3 because he is throwing sparks pretty much everywhere from that front splitter. And the whole idea of that splitter, it doesn't really generate any kind of downforce. It just clears the air out from underneath the car, and air packing underneath the car gives you lift. So what that splitter does is it says, nope, we want you to go up and over the car, not underneath it here. And he's got that thing. I mean, you can see the rake in that car right now to get that splitter down on the deck.
Well, a little track off there, but it's so easy to slip a tire here and there. We're going to see this all weekend long. I don't think it's really a lot to worry about. The challenge right now is the grass is a little slippery, and I think that's what happened to Pucci earlier. But the curbing is so flat, there's really no penalty in terms of vehicle dynamics to get your tires up on those things. So we'll see drivers dropping tires all weekend long, getting dirt. That's a little too much there.
Too much.
That'll suck the car around. But you can really be aggressive with the curbing. You're going to see dust clouds here and there. I wouldn't be too worried about that. You just got to remember that as soon as you step beyond the curbing into the grass at high speed, then you can start to have the drag effect of the grass play into it like we saw with the 437.
Well, and do keep in mind, too, folks, that even though you're going through, say, a right-hand corner, so the left tires are the loaded tires, you still get grip from the rights. And that's why sometimes you would think, well, why don't you just put a whole bunch of camber? Well, because that inside tire, then the unloaded tire, if you will, going through a turn, it's then riding while that outside tire with the camber is flat and planted. That inside tire, you're just getting sort of that inside shoulder, and one, it doesn't offer much grip, and two, it just tears that shoulder up. So that's why you don't see cars just really throw in that camber, because you don't want to destroy a tire, but you want to get a little bit of stick from those unloaded tires, because they just give you that, you got 4 tires in the car. That's the only grip you got. Every bit of input, whether it's engine and horsepower, whether it's aero, whether it's throttle, brake, steering from the driver, it's all transmitted to the ground by 4 fairly small contact patches of rubber. You might as well use as much of it as you can to give you as much stick as you can.
Wanted to also just briefly circle back to the track map again. We had some folks asking about the chicanes that we're running. There are multiple layouts of this racetrack.
Right.
And on the back straightaway, there is a tighter chicane. You can see it here on the map, that gray area at the top of the screen.
Yep.
We're not running that one. We're running the shallower chicane, the faster one through 8 and 9. And then on the front stretch here on the bottom right of your screen, where the first 2 numbers are on the track map, that is, again, the looser chicane. There is a tighter one, kind of that 90-degree right-left, but we're running the fast variation around here all the way around. So for those asking about which chicane we're running, yes, the new ones.
And if you think about it from this angle, look where that drag strip is, which is that dark twin line just at the bottom of the front straight. And then where that chicane is, that's how tight that used to be. It was awful, is what it was. Although I will say, one of the most exciting starts I've ever seen in my life was in a Pro Formula Atlantic race. A guy named Claude Bourbonnais had a problem in qualifying and ended up dead last because he had a mechanical issue. He went down to the inside from a standing start, just nailed the start, went down the inside, came out of those first 2 turns in second.
Man.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But that's about the only good thing I ever saw come out of those first 2 corners. This new layout is much, much more comfortable, racy, driver-friendly, everything.
Well, it is definitely a chilly, cool, overcast day here in Kansas, definitely signifying the end of the racing season. If we win a couple more days and it continues to get colder, I need to be inside, Greg. It's getting certainly chilly. We have 2 more things for you in this kind of early afternoon stream here on Friday. We've got 1 more stream later today with another run group of track battle, followed by our first GLTC race. That will kick off around 4 o'clock Central. Up next, though, Time Attack Group A, then it'll be GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Qualifying. So the 2 really fast, fun events of this morning are about to kick off. And Group A, again, contains drivers like Jackie Ding, Mike Amick, Nick Kors, Nick Gardner. Eric Dewey DeWitt is back with us this weekend.
Nice.
Andy Hollis, Dana Baczynski, Josh Halka, Evan Weeder, Jason Kanakry, Steve Luca. Charles Miller is back competing with us this week in street. So a lot of the who's, the past champions, the current points leaders are all in this mix. This will be a fun session to watch, but keep your timing screens handy in another tab, because you're going to be following a lot of very quick laps in a very short amount of time.
And it's going to be interesting because Ferris Khartoumi did not go out in that morning session, and he is in the queue, ready to go. We saw the Beast just a little while ago, and it'll be interesting to see just what kind of speed he gets up to on his first time out on the track relative to some of the folks that have already had some lapping done, as we have one of the track EV vehicles just out doing a quick inspection.
I'm taking a look at things again. We've had track battle. I actually got a chance to ride with Nicholas Kors the other day in his number 79 Turbo Civic. And we want to talk about all the testing and tuning these drivers do. Well, he offered me a ride yesterday as they were testing suspension. And he said, you know, it might get a little sketchy. We're testing some things. Hop in and let's go for a ride. A lot of fun to ride with Nick. He's a great driver, great car. We also ran out of gas. So I was maybe a little distracting, and they forgot to put fuel in the car. But it was a blast to ride with Nick. And, you know, there's a lot of testing and tuning. So sometimes things break. You pop off an oil line or something or like that, or you can lay down fluid on the racetrack. So always good to do an inspection after these track battle sessions before you send out the really, truly fast cars.
Well, yeah, absolutely it is. It's crucial, and particularly when you're into these super unlimited and the you know, all of these absolutely amazing cars. A lot of them are stressed to the nth degree. So you need to get out there, just do a run, especially if you've done any work on the car, and make sure any of the high pressure fittings, and there are lots of pressure in some of these motors, make sure that they're all tightened up and snugged, and okay, now we can have some confidence to go out and really throw in some laps.
Really love the between session entertainment here, being so close to the airport. I know Matt, who's behind the stream right now, is an airplane owner and enjoys flying in his spare time, and I'm sure he's enjoying this as well. But
absolutely.
Cars rolling now. Jackie Ding rolling off. There's Ferris Kartoumi. I think behind him, yes, that's Tadas Karlinksis in the Porsche Cayman. That is a super unlimited car. I wouldn't be surprised if that started life as a race car if it's in super unlimited.
Yep.
Michael Amick will roll off behind. There he is in the number 6 Subaru. Then Nick Kors, who I rode with yesterday, Nicholas Gardner in the unlimited class GT350. Dewey DeWitt, Stan Feingold, Andy Hollis, Dana Basinski, Josh Halka are your top 10. There's Jason Kanakary in the McLaren 720S. Dalton Klein back with us out of Iowa in the orange Corvette you just saw roll by. And there is, I think that's Mike Coons. Indeed it is. Nope. I lied. Who is in the Impreza? That was probably, maybe that was Halka that snuck out.
Okay.
I couldn't quite get a look at the number on the side of that car. But yes, it is, I believe. So as they roll onto the racetrack now, we're going to kick things off here for Track Battle Group A. And of course, we definitely need to follow Ferris Kartoumi this first trip around. He's going to be hauling. But he also hasn't made any laps this weekend, so maybe he's going to be a little tentative here. The last couple events, he was running some Michelin slicks. They take a couple laps to get up to temperature. His car, though, is really set up, or was set up for one fast lap. They've made some changes so that it's a little bit more reliable in terms of the temperature climb so that they can run a little bit more. There's Brian Blaine, by the way, the TrackMod RX-7. We've seen this car on track a whole bunch at GridLife events, and it is rowdy.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And, you know, the one thing with Ferris, with these conditions, it's going to minimize a little bit the heat in the car, so he might be able to go out, and I would think he's going to go out, put in a few laps, pit, and then they're going to tweak, because he hasn't been out yet, make their other tweaks, and I would guess maybe near the end of this session, he will come back out and try and throw in something really, really special here. Well, and I have a question for you.
Sure.
You know, we see the McLaren here, and like, would the GT3 variant of those cars, would that be a super unlimited? Probably because
good question.
It's a street car, but it's pulled off of the assembly line and turned into a serious race car.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
It's an Adam Jabay question. If it has a VIN assigned to it at any point, I think it's fine for unlimited.
Okay.
Beyond that, it's a super unlimited car. So here's Jackie Ding. I think Jackie will be the one up to speed here. Ferris will probably take a couple laps. We'll see him go quick later in the day, most likely. But Ding enters turn number 1. Fast right-hander into that left at turn 2. Look at the suspension. Almost got air there over the bump. And he's carrying a ton of speed already as we head to turn 3 in the banking for the first time.
And he had a 38.823 on his first run this morning. So a lot of speed right from the off here.
He was the fastest car at this event last season, and Jackie rolls through, wow, getting some dirt and grass. Big counter steer at the exit of turn number 5 and heads down to turn 6 now. And Jackie, of course, is leading the street mod standings and is essentially going to clinch the championship here this weekend without Alex Moss participating. Michael Amick is 80 points back, so Jackie, again, has been really, really impressive. Into the fast left-hander at turn 8, gets it nice and tight and tidy, and then we'll turn back to the right at turn 9, carry it. Whoa, big tank slapper there. He gathered it up, but he is after it right now in this number 86 PhD Racing GR Supra. Oh, little too much speed. No, it was actually good. He gathered it up. I thought the car was going to run wide. Now into the last couple corners here at turn 10, 11, 12, and then into the last two, 13 and 14. Under the bridge, right-hander at 13, and now give the power down. This is where this car is going to struggle as a traditionally tail-happy car. Jackie gets it down, throttles up, straightens out. He is trying to beat a 138.823 across the line for Jackie Ding. 136.495, and Jackie Ding will reset the street modified track record again.
Wow.
And he beats his time by this morning by 2 seconds. Khartoumi runs a 41.5, just warming things up. Amick at a 42.0. Here's the 241 car making some laps. That's Nairi in the 241. A couple other, well, this is a rowdy looking car here. Exiting turn number 14 up onto the front straightaway. That is Lali Nairi in a 1990 Nissan Skyline GTR. Here is Faris Khartoumi looking a little quicker this lap around, but has some traffic in the shape of Karlinski ahead of him. Wow, big dust cloud from the Cayman out in front. Points Faris on by as he dives off into the far end of the racetrack here.
Just to give you a little perspective, that lap by Ding is almost 94 mile an hour average speed. And some of these turns, you're not running 94. So there is some serious pace here at this track. There's a look at Faris.
Yep.
Was just feeling his way around and figuring out this layout.
Jackie looks like he bailed out of this, cooling down or heading back to pit lane, but a 36.4 is going to be a very tough lap to beat. But I know Jackie is going to continuously try to go quicker throughout the weekend. But Faris now looks like he's a little bit more up to speed as he hits turn number 10.
Just look at the massive arrow on that car, the size of that splitter, along with the big tabs on the end to track that air where he wants it to go, and that massive wing on the back. And into that chicane, he's driving into this stout headwind.
Whoa, look at the front bumper vibrating on that car. And I'll bet he's doing 160 or better getting into that corner.
He's got to be.
Again, this car has north of 1,200 horsepower on its most aggressive tune. It is not a slow car. Jackie Ding still quickest overall right now, but Faris, I'm going to imagine those are the Michelin tires on this. That'll take a couple laps to warm up, but he's certainly getting a little quicker and more aggressive. That run up into Alpha, he was hauling the mail.
He really was. It was at Road America last year. Was it 186?
184,
184 down into Canada corner there. So I mean that gives you an idea of the speed of this machine. Let's see what he does here. And this is where now I have to see what kind of he's just pretty much flat chat through 7, and now he's heading into the headwind, so that arrow is going to be even better.
Yeah, hard to tell if he's, again, it looked like he was maybe a little tentative coming on throttle out of the corner here, so I'm not sure he's up to full tilt just yet. But that's crazy that he's only a second off of Jackie, running at probably 40, 50%.
Exactly.
Just getting comfortable with the conditions and the car here. He was not here last year, so this is, to my knowledge, the first time he's been here. Definitely the first time he's been here at GridLife since our first event at this racetrack was last season. And through turn 10.
His lines are really good through that section.
Although I will say this final sector doesn't really complement this car very well. Those tight direction changes, it's not what this car is built for. It's built for those high-speed flowing sections.
Yep.
And this time across the line, a 35.2, that'll jump him to the top, but I still think he's probably a couple seconds off of the max capability of that car.
I think he absolutely is, and you're right. And that's why that patience to drive those lines as well as he did there, because for him, that section of track is, flow speed through 10, give up a little bit on the exit of 10, and then drive 11, 12, and 13 to set you up for the launch out of 14. And again, that's where that discipline is here.
So
nicks the inside a little bit there.
Yeah, I think he's off, just cooling down now at this stage. Here is a good look at Andy Hollis. Let's follow this car for a little bit. I got some stuff to talk about. So Andy Hollis running with us. He is an autocrosser and a time attacker and all of the above. This is a 2018 McLaren 720S, completely stock except for wheels, tires, and brakes. And so now Andy Hollis's job used to be designer, engineer, and executive in the computer games industry for EA and Microprose, building combat flight simulators. He's now retired. He's a 13-time autocross national champion in SCCA Pro Solo and Solo, a 12-time competitor in One Lap of America with 8 class wins. Highest overall finish was second place, undefeated at SCCA Time Trials Nationals, 5 wins in 5 different cars, running 5 different classes. And winner and lap record holder at Global Time Attack Super Lap Battle at COTA in this car, and was a race engineer for Tom O'Gorman in his 3 seasons in PWC, and was on his team for both of his PWC championships.
Yeah, the guy has it dialed. You know, he's one of those, he can drive, but he's also got some serious technical skills, and that's a great combination.
Again, McLaren 720S, this is, you know, McLaren's got some crazy cars, so this isn't even really the pinnacle. Of course, they've got, you know, the P1, which is a whole other level, but this car is very, very aggressive looking. His best time so far this weekend is a 43.7, so he's already improved that by 0.6 of a second on his first lap out here. We'll see if he can improve it this time through.
It looked to me like he ran a little wide in 10.
He told me this weekend, not looking to be competitive, just hanging with his friends and getting some clean laps on a fun racetrack. So cross the line for Andy Hollis. I don't think he's trying to be competitive, but he is right now leading in track mod. Oops.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're fast, is when you're accidentally fast.
So. I'm unintentionally leading.
Uh-oh, I won. I'd like to have that problem, but Hollis right now really, really quick. Actually splitting the difference here in the street battle between Halka and Feingold, who Halko's actually trailing Feingold coming into this session, so that'll be a really fun battle to watch here this weekend. And in terms of the championship here in 2022 in the street category, as it stands coming into the weekend, Halka is on top with 398 points. Luca Barberis is second, Tony Barber third. Feingold is down the order a little bit, has only run 3 events with us. So Feingold could really earn some good points here as we take a look at Karlinski in that super unlimited class Porsche Cayman. Again, I think mid-engine, really all Porsches, but the Cayman in particular, really great looking car, and what a fantastic chassis. For those that listen to DJ Alessandrini and Tom O'Gorman's podcast, just plugging it for those guys, the Lizard Brains podcast, they were talking just the other day about these mid-engine Porsches and how when they run with a square stance, equal tire up front and in the rear, they're really, really good. When they come stock, they have a narrower tire in the front. They tend to understeer a little bit by default, but if you put a square setup on those cars, they're extremely capable. You look squarely at Aaron Lichty in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. He's got a square stance on that car, and boy, is that a fantastic race car. So, again, Caymans and Porsches in general are fantastic racing machines, and you don't have to do a lot to them.
No, they are, you know, one of the definitions of a really high-performance turnkey race car. They come out and they are ready to go. And you look at what they're doing in some of the Pro Series in the GT4 category with that, you know, that Cayman Club Sport. It's not that far removed from the street car, and it is just absolutely spectacular.
Watching Evan Weeder exit turn 14 and come across the line. Weeder was trailing Basinski in Falcon Club TR this morning. His best time was a 45.1, so I think he's actually a little bit off by about 0.2. Basinski at a 44.0. That is a pickup by 0.3. So Basinski and Weeder are currently leading in that category. We already documented Grant Davidson's windshield problems that have prevented him from entering today. He could get into the sessions later today or tomorrow, but Davidson needs to podium to guarantee himself that class victory on the season.
Yeah, and we talked about it. He has a lot of work to do to get that fixed and then get out with no track time and try and figure out how to put in something pretty quick here. That's going to be very, very a huge challenge for him.
Dalton Klein across the board, a 1:44.564 his best time. Mike Coons battling in the street category, a 46.653 is his best in this Subaru. Always love the look of the hatchback Subarus of this generation. Thought they were sleek looking cars. And bounces over the turn 1 and 2 combination here. Tracking Derek Muse in the 266, and Charles Miller making a return in the number 55 Evo. So good to see him back here this weekend at a 44.374.
And just looking for Evan Weeder, he is about 0.2 off of his time this morning.
Yeah.
So he's really chasing something right now. I'm not sure what it would be.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's battling Basinski, and you talk about the championship for Club TR. We mentioned Davidson is the leader. Basinski is second. Ben Thorne currently is third. Thorne from Gears and Gasoline is not here this weekend. So Evan Weeder trying to grab enough points to eclipse him. Have they both run 4 events? Thorne has run 1, 2, 3, 4. He has. So Evan Weeder has run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you take your best 4. So if Weeder could really get a good weekend here, be an interesting. He'd need to do pretty well to. I'm not sure that he could eclipse Ben Thorne. We'll have to follow that throughout the weekend. But Weeder 4th right now in the Falcon Club TR standings. It's a little bit tricky to know, how much you can do in points because it's based on whoever is the fastest. That's 100 points, and then it's a 10th for every, or excuse me, it's 1 point for every 10th you are slower than the quickest driver. So it can vary.
Gotcha. Yep.
So it's a little trickier to track points in this series versus a position-based championship in GLTC.
We were just watching Coons. He's running a good 2 seconds quicker than he ran this morning. He actually was slated to be in Group B, but he ended up here in Group A, and really that 146.6. He's definitely found something.
Yeah, it looks like in second in track mod. Blaine, Nairi, and Klein all within about 0.3 of a second for second place. That's a great fight.
That's really close. Yes, it is.
Andy Hollis went quicker at a 42.451, so that's definitely quicker than he ran this morning by about 1.3 seconds. So Hollis has found a little extra ground. And Khartoumi at that 34.4, I think that time is going to continue to fall. Ding at a 36.4. He's got to be happy with that, but he'll continue to improve. Mike Amick, Dewey DeWitt, Nicholas Kors, all right in the mix there. That'll be a fantastic fight for podium. I mean, these are really some good fights. You expect this at the finals, but I'm really excited to follow this all the way through the weekend. I think we're going to have battling all the way until the last session of Saturday.
Well, it's the last race, right? So, your last event, you want to give it your all. You want to end the season with as big of a push as you can. You want to get done with that last event of the year and really feel good about the effort that you and your team put in. So
waiting for track battle here to complete. Yes, there's a checker. Let's have a look at our results for track battle Group A here as we get prepped for GridLife Touring Cup qualifying. John Raymond looking very frigid up there on top of the flag stand.
Yes, he does.
There's a look at your results here for track battle Group A. Looks like we got to sort out the street mod class coloration. That should be teal there for Ding, Amick, Dewey, DeWitt, and more. But there's a look at the rest of the order. And Nicholas Gardner in his Unlimited GT350 right now 10th. And then there's your street battle, Stan Feingold, who is trailing now Josh Halka. So Stan running second as it stands. That fantastic fight for second in track mod. Dalton Klein went even quicker on the most recent lap.
143.2, well played. Actually gave himself, put a car between himself and his pursuers and out a class car, but that's just an indication that he really has found some pace.
All right, we're going to step away for just a very brief moment. GridLife Touring Cup qualifying coming up next in just a moment.
Do I have time to run?
Coverage of GridLife Finals is brought to you by Valvoline, the official motor oil of GridLife. And by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. eBay Motors, let's ride. And by Falcon Tires. The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the official tire of Club TR. flies, and we're racing.
Hightower pushes Jensen along the exit of turn number 4.
This win, it's
big fly!
It's time to go racing at GRIDLIFE Midwest. Hill side by side. O'Gorman around the outside now for the top spot. Tom O'Gorman goes to lead. 3 wide for the lead.
This is great racing, folks. This is what this series is all about.
The sights, sounds, and smells of fall signify the end of the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup season. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Creamer for the start of our GLTC event. Qualifying coming up next here for race number 1 later today.
Man, can't be more excited about a season finale than this one. I'll tell you what, a challenging venue, really cool conditions. Grip's going to be a difficult thing to find. This is going to be a real test, and that's how you want to end a championship, is with a track that really asks everything out of a driver and his or her team. We've got it here.
We have a 40-car field here in GLTC at Heartland Park this season. What a great way to end on a high note here, including your favorites, Erica Till, Jeremy Swenson, Tom O'Gorman, Matt Waldbaum, Andy Smedegaard, and many, many more are here in this field, along with a couple new drivers in this pack as well. Brian Tyson, Brian Heitman is here. Jason Siney is here out of Chicago, Illinois, to Yeti Auto Works 09 Porsche Cayman. So we have a lot of new drivers, a lot of returning drivers, and a heck of a championship fight going on for second place. O'Gorman's doing pretty solid, leading the way, but for second, Smedegaard and Swenson are awful close.
Really, really close. And we actually have a couple of battles in the points position. You've got that one you're talking about Smedegaard and Swenson. Then you've got Thorne and Waldbaum in their battle for fourth, also incredibly close. And even if you're not in it for the championship, you still want to finish as high as you can at the end of the year for a variety of reasons. Confidence, if you're looking for some help getting a program put together, the higher you finish in a championship, it all pays off. And personal satisfaction, obviously, is a biggie. You think about the season that Swenson and Andy Smedegaard had. Were it not for Tom's season, you would be looking at those as being really remarkable seasons. This has just been one of those amazing years that comes across every once in a while for Tom O'Gorman. But the numbers for Smedegaard and for Swenson, really stout.
Smedegaard's season has been spectacular. He has 28 podiums in 36 starts. That is an unbelievable statistic. 6 wins on the season, 6 poles, an average finish of 4.8. But Jeremy Swenson, only 5 wins this season. A bunch of those came at PPIR a couple weeks ago. Average finish, though, 2.5. That is insane, and it would be easily leading the championship, I feel, if Tom O'Gorman wasn't here,
right,
who has won 19 races in 36 starts. So Tomo has really been on top of it. But again, Tom, all he has to do this weekend is finish 10th or better on the weekend. He's got that championship clinched, and he should. He's been rock solid this season. But Jeremy Swenson, we can't ignore how good of a season he has had, and Andy Smedegaard too. Andy, not only is he a driver, he's also taking care of like 8 cars.
Oh, I know. When I got here yesterday in the evening, everybody else was gone, and Andy's driving this weekend. And what's he doing? Working on a couple of other cars, not his, other cars. The guy is amazing, and then he gets out on the track and just puts in some laps. And I actually caught up with he and Tom, and they were going over some data. And Andy is right there. He always has been. He's really, really fast. This has just been Tom's year. And, for Swenson, I was talking to him, and, he's missed a couple events. And had he been at those with that 2.5 average finish, if he kept those numbers up there, it might be a whole different story in that battle at the front. And, he said, the one thing I continue to chase with this car is, he said, in the quick transition right-handers, he said, back end wants to swap. He goes, I've been through this thing. He goes, maybe it was tweaked somewhere along the way. And I looked at him and I said, explains your absence at Lime Rock? And he went, oh, yeah. And he said, this track's good, except there are a few of those, turn 4, turn 8 in particular, where you're carrying speed and you're flicking it into a right-hander. And he said, that's where it's a little difficult. But he said, otherwise, the car's really, really good. And he showed that at PPIR, at Pikes Peak. So he's got speed, and what he's got in that car, that V8, it's kind of restricted down a little bit in terms of the power it could make, but it's got lots of torque. It's really got a nice, flat, consistent power curve. And on a free lap here, he may not be the fastest, but the minute they catch traffic, that torque is going to pay him huge dividends here.
Thinking back to last season, Jeremy won 2 of the 4 races here. Eric Jensen won his first and only GLTC race in race 4. The other went to Eric Catil. Jensen is here battling for another repeat victory, and Eric Catil is here as well. 14th place in the standings with only 2 events under him, Mid-Ohio and Lime Rock Park. That's really impressive. An average finish of, what's he got, 4.6 in only his 2 events. So Eric could theoretically place inside the top 10 in points here this weekend. Again, we've done all the drops you can do, so Eric is taking every point he can get at this stage. That's incredibly impressive to show up with a brand new car with, frankly, pretty extreme suspension geometry, with only 1 test day under him. Went to Mid-Ohio, competed there, went to Lime Rock, finished 2nd there. Eric Catil has a really good shot at being a race victor like he was here last year in race 1.
He definitely does. I think his car could be really, really good here in turn, because a lot of this in this type of car is flowing speed. It is a momentum track. It's got that tight and twisty stuff on the one end, but the rest of it is getting your car into and through the corner. And Catil, as a driver, is really, really good at that, and you know his car is going to be successful as that as well. And I did talk to Eric Jensen earlier, and I said, got your 1 win here last year? And he went, yeah. And I went, well, you're on the stream, but, no pressure.
Well, again, we talk about last season, the rules were a little bit different. We were on mostly slick racing tires last year. I think the parity between V8s and 4-cylinders has really tightened up. I think last year the V8s had a really big advantage here on the straightaways in particular. The other thing that matters here a lot is track position.
Yes.
That sounds like a silly thing to talk about, track position. Well, of course, it's a race. But, I mean, it's difficult to pass here at times. And this means that this session, I feel, is the most important session on the weekend, because where you start is going to set up your entire weekend. If you qualify 14th, 15th, 16th, if you have an issue in qualifying, it is going to be a long, hard weekend of kind of, frankly, sketchy passes. You're going to have to make them work because you don't have any time to spare here and if you want to get points for that championship. So Eric Jensen, qualifying hasn't really been his strong suit in the past. He got the pole in race 4 last year off of an invert. So this is a really important session for all those drivers to focus on.
Well, in this series, more than any other, that first qualifying session, as you said, dominoes through everything, because the grid for race 2 is based on fast laps in race 1. Well, if you're mired in a pack, it can be really tough to find a gap to be able to just lay down one good lap. So then, let's say you don't have a great run there. Well, what happens? Grid for race 3, that's on your lap times, or on your finishing order. So you've had a problem in 1, you've had a problem in race 2, now you're starting race 3. It just really dominoes through things. So this is really, really important here to get out and put in a really, really good lap. And you talk about we could have run the tighter chicane into 8. We could have run the tighter chicane through 2. Yes, that's a better passing area, but it makes this track very point and squirt and not as fast and flowing, and that's what you like as a driver. So I think the decision to run this lap, look how much tighter it would be if you did that really tight where those cones are over into that. It just isn't as enjoyable a track to drive. And what this does is now it puts a little bit of emphasis on creative passing in spots. And one of the things I love about this series that you don't find in a lot of pro series now with the paddle shifts and all that. In this series, you can still hustle a guy into a mistake. And that's going to have to be part of the game plan here. You've got to be perfect. You got to get the guys around you to make some mistakes.
Yeah, mostly H-pattern manual transmission cars
heel
here.
And toe,
heel
the
and
magic.
toe. You can run a sequential with a 5% penalty, and the idea is
that's weight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You shouldn't plan your GLTC build around a sequential. That's not the idea. It's to allow cars like the Global MX-5 to be able to transplant into this series without a lot of changes. We do have one of those here this weekend. Brian Heitman is in one. But again, there's a couple dog box cars. I think Jensen has one of those, but mostly H-pattern manual transmissions. Real slow outlaps here. Should also note that ASM comes into the weekend. Remember back at Mid-Ohio testing that new Bridgestone RE71 RS tire? Well, all of ASM is on those tires now. They've got a partnership with them. So they're all on that really quick tire. And I believe so is Jeremy Swenson. He reset the GLTC Heartland track record here, which, by the way, that is quicker than a slick tire at this track.
Wow.
So, yeah, those tires are pretty solid right now in the way that things are. So,
and is Catil running that now?
Catil is also running those tires. So it seems like that is the choice for Swenson. He wants to give himself the best shot at beating Smedegard, so he's kind of bought into that, and we'll see how he does here. But we saw Tom use those to great success at Mid-Ohio and Lime Rock Park, and Andy at PPIR, so I think we'll see that be kind of a trend coming into the weekend here. So onto the front straightaway, Jeremy Swenson will light up the rear tires and head to the start-finish line. Expecting lap times to be in the 142 to 144 range for our quick cars here, but green flag here in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying. This will set the starting lineup for our race at 6 o'clock later today. Swenson over Alpha into turn number 1. And Swenson has a background running Corvettes in time attack. And all qualifying is time attack here, Greg, so this is really his element.
Exactly, and he understands that you get the car into that window that we were talking about, get the tires where you want them, get everything ready, put that flyer in, and then with these cool conditions, if he goes out and he finds out I'm a little wrong on my pressures or whatever, you've got time with these cool conditions. If you drive the lap smoothly, you're not going to torture the tires too much. You can get in, make a change, come back out, maybe put something in even quicker. And I think there was a reason he was queued up first. He wanted clear track, get out there, put this lap in.
So I also need to extend, I guess, some awe at the Myriad Motorsports team. Well, we had a new competitor join us this weekend, and his name is Tony, who's joining us this weekend. Forgive me for not knowing his name off the top of my head. Tony Marchev out of Lincolnshire, Illinois. Tony Motive Performance car has a Honda S2000. Blew the motor yesterday in a test day. Myriad Motorsports, not affiliated with Tony at all. They helped him swap that engine. They finished at 3 a.m. last night. Wow. So that is the strength of the GRIDLIFE community. Tony learned that immediately. That's how things roll here in GRIDLIFE.
That's what we're talking about. A motorsports paddock in general, you've got people that have a shared passion, but here it's even more close and intense. Big rotation by Austin Hertel there.
Yep. There's Robert Thorne, by the way. He's here on the entry list and could really muck up the battle between Andy and Jeremy as we come across the line. First lap times in the books, a 42.8 ties the best lap from last season. Tom O'Gorman, a 140.9.
Boom.
That is 2 seconds faster than we saw this morning in practice. Unbelievable, but maybe it shouldn't be all that surprising with Tomo behind the wheel.
Well, and he didn't go out in practice because they tested yesterday, and he said, I feel pretty good. I don't want to put extra miles on it. And Tomo, he understands this track. Look at that, just tight to the inside, letting that climb and that banking work, moving it over. Just a little bit of a little twitch turning in there. Now watch this turn here. Perfect rotation, gets it set up, and get over to that left because this is a hugely critical corner. A little bit of a late apex, get it rotated hard on the throttle now. And this is for him. You're just blasting turn 7, is just keeping it pinned. These cars really have some grip, and now that run into that chicane.
It's just amazing how fast these GLTC cars have gotten. The progress in drivers and teams really finding the limits of the rule set. It's really, really impressive. Eric Catil goes 6th quick. Austin Hertel in 5th. Matt Waldbaum 4th. Good run for Matt returning here to GLTC competition after sitting out PPIR. Then Thorne, Arimas Karosis, how about that, up into 8th place.
Nice lap.
Yep. Jake Jornstad up into 9th. Matan Rosenberg hanging on to 10th.
I'll tell you what, that young man, this has been a great year for him. His first appearance in shootouts, top 10 in the points with a chance to move up a spot or maybe 2. And Tomo says, yeah, that one's pretty good.
I think I'll take that. Here comes Smedegaard into turn 13, trying to improve on his best time, which is 3rd quick right now at a 43.0. And up onto the front straight, gearing up and heading towards the start-finish line again. Zach Lavoie running 11th right now. Let's focus on Lavoie because he is trying to beat Eric Jensen this weekend. Now, I have not seen Jensen yet on track, or, I mean, he was in the grid here. I just haven't seen him come across the start-finish line as of now. But he is locked in a battle with Eric Jensen. Lavoie is. There's a 4-point separation between Lavoie and Jensen, and Robert Thorne and Matt Waldbaum have only 7 points between them. And right now, Waldbaum is ahead of Thorne, if only by a couple positions. There's Jackson Jensen jumping up to 10th, and Father Eric up into 8th. So that'll be a great fight to watch this week.
Right behind Zach Lavoie. Yep. So things are shaping up smartly here at this stage here. And, one of the things, that lap by O'Gorman tells you about one of the reasons that he is so good in terms of those race wins and the like is he finds speed very quickly when there's limited grip. And that can come from various conditions, but normally it's just from cold tires. And he goes out there and it takes him less time to find that absolute sweet spot and throw that lap down. And when you apply that to a race, if he's up near the front and he gets to the lead, he opens up that margin, and then everybody else has to burn their tires off a little bit trying to catch him. That's the gift, and I've always said, you race what you practice, and you watch Tom in any session. When he goes out, it's business. There's no 3-4 laps of tootling around trying to dial it up. He goes out, and within a lap or two, he's flying, and that translates directly into racing, but also into qualifying.
Scott Robertson 17th, Tony Marchev with that new engine 18th place as it stands. Look at Jason Steiny, by the way.
Yep.
He's tried to enter GLTC a couple of times. Car didn't quite make it. He's finally here and in the top 10 here right now in qualifying.
Well, Jason is really, really fast. I announced him for a number of years when he was racing touring car in the World Challenge Series in the Mazdas. And he was as fast as anybody in the game. And, once he gets used to this car, gets some laps in, he's going to be somebody to really pay some attention to.
Wes Case in the 767 Red Eye Racing BMW, 20th place right now behind Lewis Chatroop. Good to see Performance Zero Works back. Hans Horpedal for Myriad, 21st. Fiona Liu is back. Wes Penn. Eric Catil jumps back up into 10th place. And you can see it on the scrolling order, a lot still shuffling here as drivers continue to work up to pace.
And Thorne has moved from 8th to 6th to 5th in 3 consecutive laps now at a 144.4. Talked to him earlier, and I asked him, I said, how is the car suited to this track? And he said, generally pretty good. He said, that tight twisty section from 10 through to 14, because it's not going to be the strong suit for this car. And he said, the car is really good on the brakes, and the aero here is going to be a little bit better than some of the other cars in those faster swoops. I think I can do something with it here. He's very, very talented.
Joel Morrison running 12th right now, rather. This is not a new car. This is the same car, new wrap for this vehicle. This was previously the 9 Lives Racing Myriad Motorsports car, so that had a kind of more green and black livery. Now it's very bright green, hard to miss that one. And right behind the 523 car. Now this is a new driver with a car that is familiar to us here in GLTC. That is Joseph Ascoli out of Oldfields, West Virginia, running that 06 Honda Civic. That is Dustin Barty's old car. Barty is going to be running a Firebird next season. So sold that car to fund the new build, and I love seeing that. I don't like seeing GLTC cars go up for sale. They thankfully don't do that very much, but usually when they go up for sale, they still end up in our series with a different driver. So that's really cool to see cars kind of getting traded around and staying competitive. Austin Hurdle picks up, split the difference between Waldbaum and Thorne for 5th.
Yeah, that's a great lap by Austin. He really is putting some solid laps in here. Swenson, that is still second at a 142.4. Smedegard at a 42.7. So they continue to run really closely. And Waldbaum, he's been impressive this year. This is his first season of actual racing, and he's putting in some laps. But we're watching Austin Hertel here, and that's just a pretty car. You wouldn't think that sort of a rust bronze and purple would work. It does.
So this car used to be a street class time attack car, and he converted that to run GLTC last season and has made a lot of improvements. This is a fantastic qualifying run for Hurdle. I think that's kind of been one of his weaknesses in this season and past seasons is car race is great, but it doesn't qualify very well typically. This starting top 5 is really good in GLTC. You're running qualifying laps every lap in the race. So if you can put yourself up at the pointy end now, you're going to be in a great spot here. Pulls off to the side, looked like Thorne went raging by. You mentioned Matt Waldbaum, 24 starts, average finish 5.5. That's a heck of a way to start your career.
That's amazing. I mean, basically prior to this has really only been doing, in terms of racing, iRacing,
and
sim
autocross,
stuff, so and some autocrossing. So that's a big step into actual door-to-door racing and doing a great job. But Hurdle here is really nice. Look at that line through 10. I don't think he's on he might be building to start another qualifier here. But those are the lines you want. There goes Thorne.
Yeah, and Swenson looks like he's going to pull on in here. Save the tires. P2 is not a bad place to start. And remember that we start on a very long straightaway here. So when that green flag flies, if I'm putting a bet up between Tomo or Swenson beating each other to turn 1, I might pick that Viking Performance Corvette. That car is certainly not a slouch in a straight line. And remember that there is no NASCAR-style rule where the leader has to get to the start-finish line first. When that green flag flies, everybody can go. So it's a reaction time game. Power to weight means that everybody should accelerate at roughly the same rate. So it really comes down to how good you are jumping to that throttle.
Well, yes, the one thing that would change that up, that power to weight thing, is some engines just have more torque than others.
Right.
So that and those V8s, that's what they're all about. So if he gets the reaction time, Tomo was talking to me about that. He said this is the second longest run from green flag to first turn, and he said if Swenson, Jensen, any of the guys in a V8 are up front, he said they could very well grab the lead going into one. We've talked about how tough this place is to pass, and particularly today, Kyle, when you think about the cool temperatures, that really helps tire life. And so Swenson or a Jensen with the more weight on those tires, if they get to the lead early, it's tough to pass here. You overslow everybody behind you to get them out of their useful power band. Then you use that torque. Things can happen.
It certainly can. There's a good look at Eric Catil in the hybrid racing and Eric Catil Racing EG Civic. Now, again, this is a relatively new build. Spent all the offseason and most of this season putting this car together. A lot of custom parts on this car, and one of the things that he was having an issue with in the test day yesterday was ball joint problems. And he's got certainly unique suspension geometry. Yeah. This car is kind of tubbed. It's sitting really low like the Japanese touring cars. So it's fighting a little bit of ball joint wear and play after each session. He's got backups, but he was fighting that. I'm not sure if he's got it completely sorted just yet, but certainly that could be a problem if he's eating those things up. And right now, only 10th quick. I think he'll be a little disappointed in the pace.
I think so, too.
In this particular session.
He's so fast, and he's used to running, obviously, right up front. But whenever one, you build up a brand-new car. Two, when you do some creative work to it, it just takes a little while to sort it because you go through what I call the weakest link syndrome, where you built this brand-new car, you go out, you start driving it, you really, once you get to speed, that weak link shows up. So you fix that. Now you're going a little quicker, then the next weak link shows up. And it just takes a while to work out all those little link kinks, for lack of a better term. And then you've got yourself something that'll really fly.
Yeah, we just saw in pit lane also, we failed to mention, the number 51, David Rudzinski, is back with Rudes Racing, a 2002 Chevrolet S10 with a Honda K motor in it. There it is.
There it is.
Oh, man, I love that thing. It's so cool. I think GLTC allows you to build some pretty stupid things, and I love stupid things, Greg, and I think racing a truck, it's pretty good. That hurdle? That was real tight.
And he was really wide through the right-hander at 8 there. Made it work through 9, but he was a good 6 feet off of the apex. And we've seen trucks, we've seen minivans, we've seen a variety of cars out here. So. Vehicles out here that can run, and that's what makes this, and it's one class. And again, I can't sing the praises enough for Adam Jabay in coming up with this power to weight that is then massaged a little bit with different things that you do. And just watching Eric Catil here right now, just the way he flows speed, and he may not be as quick as he wants, but he is continuing to develop this car, and it'll get there.
Yeah, he was fighting a little bit of oversteer as well in the test day. And again, there's a little bit of, topics of discussion. Last year he was testing a low aero package at this event and was fighting a little oversteer there too. So again, hatchback versus sedan, but there's Matan Rosenberg on pit lane, Thomas Moss on pit lane.
The other thing that we haven't addressed, which will have a role here in qualifying as well as in the race, is when it's cold like this, weight activates the tire temp a lot quicker. So the heavier cars are going to be in with a shout. And I think that might be something that Catil's chasing a little bit right now, is because as he jumps to 5th. So he's getting it there. Yeah. But because that's a light car, that's very much a momentum car, it just takes a little longer to get those tires to really get up to temp. And we've talked about it a number of times. Temperature determines pressure. Pressure determines how effective the setup on the car is. And you need temp to generate grip and stickiness in that tire compound. And if it activates quicker, that's going to be a bonus earlier in an event.
Robert Thorne headed back out on the racetrack. Waldbaum goes by at a 143.172. Saw the 51 Rudzinski. He is on his first flying lap. That truck. He switched out the
vehicle.
Yes, the final drive in that car was way off at Gingerman, so he really struggled with pace. It doesn't look super comfortable changing direction right now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that car do a little better than it did at Gingerman with some gearing changes, so we'll see how he does. As we continue to roll through here qualifying, we saw Scott Robertson and others continuing to make laps. As you mentioned, the lighter cars are not really going to have a lot of fall off here. Robertson up to 13th, a really impressive session for Scott.
That is. And I love the Jensens, father and son, 9th and 10th right now. Dad and Maverick.
And they're friendly with each other, obviously, but there's definitely some very friendly competition, jabs at each other.
Sure.
And right now,
it all comes down to how, come Thanksgiving, who could be a little more uncomfortable at dinner.
You're right. There's Joel Morrison coming across the line. Looks like Arimas Karosis there in the backdrop coming across the start-finish line. A couple other vehicles. I think, is that Fiona Liu underneath us? Or yes, that's Fiona Liu. New fender paint on that car at PPIR, so brand new coat of blue.
She's had some pretty impressive runs. I mean, we've had those big fields when we've run in the Midwest where we were talking 45, 50 cars, and she's been top 20 a couple of times. And I mean, in that deep a field, she's really coming along smartly. Sits 22nd right now in this qualifying session, but is working at it. And she's got some awfully good mentors in that team, from Andy Smedegard himself to O'Gorman. Those are people that you can really learn from. Matan Rosenberg right now still right there in that 11th spot, doing a really nice job. But it's O'Gorman, Swenson, Smedegard, Waldbaum, Coutil, Hurdle, excuse me, I keep getting that one wrong. Hurdle, Thorne, Lavoie, then the family Von Jensen.
Well, across the line, 18 minutes in, we're expecting a checkered soon. David Rudzinski's first lap was a 2-minute.655, so we'll have to find a little bit more pace. I think he's still working up to speed here as we continue. Brian Heitman, by the way, the number 13, continues to work around in 36th. But there's Coutil. Again, 10th is disappointing. 5th, I think, is more what we were expecting out of this car. Maybe 4th or 3rd if he gets a good launch on the start. So we'll see how Eric does, but I think he'll be a lot happier with a 43.9 versus where he was in the 45s.
Unquestionably. And for him to move up into that second row, he needs to find almost a full second here. And that's going to be a big chunk to pick up in not much time.
Picked up a 10th.
So, he's working at it. And I'm not so sure that outside of row 2 is going to be, well, in this series, outside of 2 could be really good because it gives you the inside exiting 2. And that could pay some nice dividends when you get over into turn 3.
Well, certainly O'Gorman mic dropped that session, a 140.915. No one's even come close to touching that. But on this season, perhaps no surprise, again, 19 wins on the year. I think people forget when they look at how dominant he is. It goes, Tom wins all the time. Let's not forget where Tom came from last season.
Exactly.
A self-funded effort, running by himself with no real support in the tail end of 2020. Then paired up with ASM last season. Started to win races here and there, but kind of got started a little bit too late to really be a factor in the championship. Ended up 3rd, I believe, on the season. Or maybe 4th on the season. Comes into this season, had that car that he ran at Road America, got crashed, then built a new one with ASM, and now since then, he said it's the best race car he's ever driven. It drives like a factory GT car, all of these things. That's Andy Smedegard's work, so we can't take anything away from Andy.
No.
But again, it's just a pairing that has really found success in the chassis that they're running, with the drivers that they have behind the wheel. And racing is cyclical. Somebody else is going to come knock him off the top of the podium at some point. But right now, Tomo's really enjoying the front spot.
It's his year. And you're right. It's a team sport. And we always talk about the drivers, of course. But, if he doesn't have an Andy Smedegard and that ASM team to build that car and turn it into a machine it is, he's not going to be there. He's very talented. He's gifted. But also, Tom is a student of racing. And I'm not just talking about, knowing what happened in 1928. I'm talking about who studies data, pores over that information. It's all-consuming for him, and that's how you win a couple of championships in a pro series. That's how you win races, and that's how you do what you do here. And it's all just come together. This is one of those beautiful convergence years when everything just clicks for you, and he's doing really a hell of a job, obviously. And if this sticks, and it certainly looks like it's going to, just to give you a perspective on it, this would be his 22nd pole. That's just stunning.
So qualifying continues here. Nice long session. There's a lot of cars here. We almost have 40 on track, so good to let them get some space. We were just watching Brad Kosiba just ahead of Robert Thorne as Thorne continues to make laps and try to knock himself back up inside the top 5. Right now he runs 7th. Joel Morrison up into 10th. This car was very competitive at Alpine Horizon. Got himself caught on the dyno once with a new engine in the car. But again, the 71 car has been a lot more competitive since Myriad has really taken to it and put a lot of effort into it. And certainly that is showing off here with Morrison behind the wheel.
He had a 6th at Pikes Peak, but he's got experience here. He ran last year, and in the second of the 4 races, ended up with an 11th, was knocking on the door of the top 10 there. So he's got some serious knowledge of this track.
So O'Gorman, Swenson, Smedegard, Waldbaum, Cotillier, top 5. Here's a good look at Arimas Corrosis in the number 871, running 17th right now, right behind Scott Robertson, Siney, Jornstad, and Gonzalez from 13th on back. Nick Steniford is here as well. He was at our Alpine Horizon Festival, as was the 851 Savannah Little. She's running the MX-5 that was previously run by Gary Wimble in the series. So Savannah's got that car right now. She's running 34th at the moment. Trying to coax a little bit more pace out of it as it stands, but here comes Steniford across the line. 18th right now, does not improve that time around. Here's Fiona Liu again. Currently 22nd, no improvement there. So I think we're starting to get to the point where drivers have kind of used up what they've got here for this session.
I'm a little surprised to see Jason Saney back in 15th, knowing what his driving skill set is, but he just may not have this car completely dialed in yet, because obviously he has made some attempts to come and race earlier in the year, and they just haven't panned out. So this is really his first time in anger in a GridLife Touring Cup session here in terms of qualifying, and obviously he's working on it.
Just got an update from Race Control on the length of this session. They've extended this all the way out to 3:15 Central, so that's another 8 minutes. So plenty more time to talk about things that are going to happen. Here's Wes Penn, by the way, in the 113. If you're sitting at home and want to get into GLTC, Wes is actively looking for a buyer for that car, and he's trying to fund a different build. I think he wants to build a Mustang, a V8 Mustang. So if anyone wants to buy that number 113 MX-5, it is for sale. Thomas Moss in the 515 right now, working his way around the course. And with this session being extended a couple more minutes, drivers have so much clear racetrack. There's plenty of time for you to cool your stuff off and go back out again. I wonder if we'll see anybody do that up towards the front. Right now it seems like we've got our 10th place car out there and a few others, but it's pretty quiet at the moment.
And look, what Saney must have heard us.
Yep.
And just makes up about a second and a half and jumps up into 10th at a 1:45.833. So a nice lap for him. I think the guys probably up into those front 3-4 rows. They might take what they've got, although I have seen Thorne had pitted and has just gone back out. So we'll see if he was able to find anything and make a little bit of a change. And that is Andy.
Yep.
So he's still out doing some lapping here, maybe looking. He's only got to find, what, 3/10 and a little over 3/10, and that would put him up onto that front row.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how much for Smedegard. I'm sure he'd love to be on the front row next to Tomo, but I think with Tom having lane choice at the start of the race, I don't know if it really matters if Andy gets on the front row, because Tom's just going to, well, I guess it's going to alternate. So I guess I thought it worked that the front row starter gets to choose their lane and everybody else follows in by the primary first corner. That's not true. How this works is when the leader rolls off pit lane and goes by the splitter, they can choose a lane, and then it just alternates back and forth. So if the leader chooses the non-optimal line, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and so on are also going to be in that line. It's not like NASCAR where it's just the front row gets to choose.
Gotcha.
So he actually is going to be opposite of, well, he will be in the same row as Andy no matter what he does. So
big rotation in turn 6 by Smedegard. Just turned that in. Clearly he's got it dialed up to be a little pointy, because he turned in that back end, just rotated around, and he straightened him up, and he was able to get to the throttle pretty efficiently and quickly here. And you know what? I mean, I'm looking at this layout here, and I almost think the way with the overlap rules here, I almost think that you might want to be potentially, Tomo, for instance, might choose the inside going into 1, because you could conceivably be side by side through 1, 2, 3, would give you the inside into 4. And I think that's going to be maybe the determining corner. And if you're inside there, that's going to set you up maybe a little bit better to be able to claim that spot before you get to 5. Just speculation on my part, but the overlap rule here, we saw it in a number of races this year. Mid-Ohio in particular on the starts. The first 15 rows were side by side after the green for 6-7 corners. It was unbelievable. I could see that playing out here.
Certainly, and with about another 3 to 5 minutes here in this session, there's still opportunity. Smedegaard, did he pick up? Yeah, I think he was in a 43s before, so he picked up. He's only 3/10 off of Swenson now. And again, these two are fighting for a championship position, second place. It's 1 point between them. Now, that isn't 1 point per race, as there's the checkered flag now here at minute 27 in the session. So with Smedegaard and Swenson, that's 1 point on the weekend. So how the points work here, you get 25 points is max per race, 25, 21, 18, and so on. We take that, you total it up, you got 87 points. Well, wherever that falls in relation to everybody else, that is now your position based on a 25-point scale. So that's how that works out. So it's really 1 point on the weekend, which means that there can't be a tie the way that, well, I guess it could only be a tie if Swenson and Smedegaard are 5th or worse together in the weekend, which is probably not going to happen.
I was going to say, what are the odds of that?
Not likely. So I probably way overcomplicated that. But essentially, there's going to be a pretty decisive blow here between Swenson and Smedegaard when it comes to the end of the weekend. There's Nick Gardner rolling around with his puppies.
There's 2 pups in it. You know what? It's nice to see. They're great dogs, but right now it's nice to see dogs that aren't Dobermans.
Yes, there's a backstory to that. Checkered flag is out. Let's have a look at our results here for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup qualifying. Tom O'Gorman, top of the board here in the Valvoline session rundown. Jeremy Swenson, Andy Smedegaard, Matt Waldbaum, Eric Cattell, your top 5. Thorne couldn't improve on the 7th. That's a little surprising here.
Yeah, it really was. But I think he's really struggling a little bit to get the car to work effectively in that 10 to 14 section of the track. I think he's pretty good everywhere else. And I think that pit stop, I think he came in and was just making some little adjustments, maybe tire pressure changes, just to try and get the car to rotate a little bit better over there. But those BMWs compared to some of these other cars, pretty long wheelbase.
Yeah, definitely a long wheelbase. But I like that stability in those fast corners. We talk about all the time over on the World Challenge side, the minis, how short wheelbase they are. They're a little unstable in some of those faster corners. But look at how deep the field is. Jeremy Boysen is here, and another Porsche came in 30th place. He actually debuted that car in GLTC last year, and then ended up having an incident with it in a testing day, rebuilt the car, re-debuted it at Alpine Horizon a couple of weeks ago. So good to have him back. And we checkered a little early. We were hearing there was a car off kind of in an area where they didn't like it, so that's why we checkered a little early. We're not quite done yet. I think Cerise will be standing by here shortly. We're waiting to get an update on pit lane, but in a couple moments we're going to head to break, and we'll be back with you in about not too long from now, actually, to kick up track battle again this afternoon. Again, we're a little delayed on the day, so we'll see what the rest of the day holds. All right, we got Cerise Taylor from FCP Euro on pit lane. Cerise is down there with us.
All right, guys, I'm here with Jason. Now, Jason, you have been trying to get out here on track all season. You are a former Pirelli World Challenge driver. Tell us a little bit about how this run group went and what you're expecting from today.
Yeah, we got this car a little earlier in the year. We've tried to bring it out a couple times. Hats off to the Speed Street crew. We've been working on it, but it was set up for a different class, so trying to make it work in GLTC has been a challenge. But we're up for the challenge. We're doing pretty well today. I think we'll start somewhere in the middle, but we're just out here learning and hoping to come back stronger next year.
I noticed you were out there lap after lap after lap. You think you're going to give these guys a run for their money?
I think we'll try. I mean, my goal by the end of the weekend is to kind of be in the top 10 and kind of giving a hard time to some of the series regulars. But we got a lot of learning to do, a lot of car setup to do. It's a brand new suspension setup we did on it, brand new ECU. So, we're just learning it and trying to improve. We wanted to come out at least the last race so that we're prepared for next year.
Well, we're glad that you made it. Back to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks to Cerise from FCP Euro for that. And Jason, talking about the testing and tuning, so much of that goes on behind the scenes that people forget about. These races are short, yes, but they're short and so fast. You really got to be dialed.
You do. And I mean, all that comes with the development. And as he said, you're taking a car designed for another class and making it fit here, and those little tweaks. I have to say for Cerise, it's a dark day, dreary day. She's wearing black for the most part, but those gloves, were nice because you want at least a hint of color.
Absolutely. You got to have a little color pop there. Thanks to Cerise again from FC Piero. Hearing that through the grapevine that it might have been a gray M3 that was parked in a spot where we needed to go retrieve it. That probably is West's case. I don't know that for sure, though. But again, that was just stopped off track. I don't think there was any contact to worry about. But we'll update you when we get to race 1 a little later today. Before we jump away, let's kind of update you on the plan for the rest of the afternoon here as it stands. Let me refresh because things might have shifted and shuffled just a little bit here this afternoon. The plan is track battle Group A at 4:40. That's about an hour and a half from now. That will be our next kickoff here. We'll get into track battle B, C, and D, and then followed by GridLife Touring Cup race number 1 at 6 o'clock. That's it for the stream for today. Tomorrow is a lot busier, Craig, so
yes,
we're going to be very, very busy up here.
It is. And you look forward to it because every one of these groups, whether it's the GLTC or the track battle, just put on wonderful shows here. The racing is great in GLTC. The speeds and the commitment in track battle, great fun as well. And that's what the vibe is in a GridLife paddock.
Well, we'll return with track battle in about an hour and a half, 4:45 Central, and that'll be about 5:45 on the East Coast. We'll see you on the other side for track battle A and GLTC race 1. Coverage of GridLife Finals is brought to you by Valvoline, the official motor oil of GridLife, and by Momo, made in Italy since 1964. FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. eBay Motors, let's ride. And by Falcon Tires. The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the official tire of Club TR.
At 303, we're always chasing perfection. Protect your ride with graphene nanospray coating. Now, boost protection, shine, and slickness with Graphene Detailer. Level up your detailing game. Harness the power of graphene with 303.
Ed Vance here, and I'm at my favorite place again.
Sorry, did you say your name is Ed Vance?
That's me.
Like advance?
Crazy, right? And it just so happens he knows everything in advance.
Oh, you know the future? Did you know I needed 10W30?
No. I just know everything here in Advance Auto Parts, like where the 10W30 is.
So you don't know what I'll do next?
Actually, I do. You will be going to the oil aisle.
He's good.
He's Ed Vance.
I spent a lot of time here.
He's here a lot.
This is how we advance.
The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenas RT660.
The more power you have, the more grip you have, the more you push the limits, the more stopping power you need. Get race-proven technology. Hawk Performance.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
For those who don't settle when others do. For those who are set free by performance and believe innovation can take you anywhere.